Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of The Gathering of Guests. I am your host for today's show, Eskuhvel. I also host this channel's main show, The Gathering of Bros, with my good buddies and brothers for life, Leo Veritas and Bulbasip. G.O.G is a bit of a different show than our main show, though. It's where the bees get together with special guests like mine today to discuss some of the same topics we discuss in our weekly G.O.B, but in more detail. Speaking of, today's guest is a gentleman I have known since my elementary days. He is a nerd of the highest caliber and a Star Wars fan that rivals even my own passion for the glorious saga. A warm welcome from The Gathering of Guests to Craxiss. Say hello, Craxiss.
What's going on, guys?
What is up? So, we are just going to jump right in today, but before we mention anything about our topic, which it is Star Wars, by the way.
Fuck yes.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about me and my buddy Craxiss. So, I've known this guy too fucking long. So we met, when we were in elementary school, came up through.
It was like kindergarten?
Junior. No, actually, because I got held back in first grade.
Oh, you did? You were dumb.
No, I was just, I was emotionally inept. That's what I was.
I can't help it.
But it's okay because look where I am now. So
it's true.
Yeah, it was honestly the best thing that ever happened because being in your guys' class versus the one that I was in
way better.
It was so much better. Oh my
you also
God.
wouldn't have met me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of good friends, including Bulbasip and Leo Veritas.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah,
I love those guys.
We've known each other, all of us, for such a long time.
Yeah, we've gone through some shit.
Yeah, and hey, keep an eye out, guys, because we will be having Craxiss hopefully at some point join us for a Gathering of Bros show. At least they have voiced their opinion, the other bees, that they want you to join us.
Yeah, that would be great. What would the topic be for that one?
Really, it's just joining us for one of our shows where we're like commenting on things. Definitely waiting for more Star Wars news. The closer we get to the next trailer, to definitely feature you on, even if it's just for a small portion.
We'll get to that, but I don't know how I feel about this trailer.
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
We'll go to. I know that's somewhere during the show, but I can't help but I've never held my tongue. You know that.
So yeah, I've known this guy for a long time, too long, as he said, and we have probably the strongest thing that we have in common is just a huge passion for Star Wars. Am I right?
Also, we're big guys.
We're also big men. Yes, that's true. They call me the fat bee of the three bees. There's fat bee, medium bee, and skinny bee.
Which bee am I? Because I'm certainly not the
You're
skinny
extra
one.
large bee.
Yeah, I'm certainly not the skinny one.
So, honorary bee today, the extra large bee, Mr. Craxiss. So, thanks again for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, not a problem. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've been chomping at the bit to get you on.
Yeah.
Here. So we're drinking some Jack and Coke.
Yes, we are. Cheers to that, brother.
Cheers, cling, cling.
And I mentioned to you before, if you want me back, I'm happy to do a segment on Dungeons and Dragons. I'm avid D&D player.
Oh yeah, definitely. So if
I run a game on every Wednesday. I play every Tuesday and Thursday, and every other Saturday.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, so he's a regular D&D player. If we have any followers who are interested in that, please be sure to let me know. You can hit us up at our email at gatheringofbros@gmail.com, or you can add us on Twitter at gatheringofbros. Let us know, are you interested in D&D? If so, we have our residential specialist with us.
I have no links because I'm just here.
Yep.
No.
So, let's jump right in.
Let's fucking do it.
We're going to start today. We're going to revisit the Disney acquisition because I really want to get your take on the Disney acquisition and what happened there. So, we were in a drought for a really long time.
Yeah, I'm going to call those the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages.
I'm going to call them the Dark Ages, where the only thing we had was, the only thing that kept me sustained anyway was, and I know it's a different topic for later, but the expanded universe that was continued on via writing.
Started with the books, yeah.
With those books, and I'm going to tell you some of the greatest expanded universe, greatest Star Wars stories that I think ever happened that I'd love to see into a movie actually occurred within the expanded universe.
Do you have any specifics?
I do. The Legacy of the Force series is one of my favorites. It involves Jason, Janna, and Anakin, which are the children of the children of Leia and Han.
I'm gonna correct you because I'm a Star Wars nerd. It's Jaina Solo.
Jaina, excuse me. I have a friend named Janna, and every time I say Jaina, she corrects me. So
it's okay, man.
It's inherent.
She drilled it into you.
She did.
She would be proud.
She's attractive.
So if you're listening,
no, I guarantee she's not. So that series is really, I think it's really good. And Mara, whatever you want to.
Marquito? No, not Keto. I'm sorry.
Well, Mara
Jade.
Skywalker.
Mara
Jade Skywalker.
Okay, fun fact. Mara Keto is a Jedi that you fight in the Star Wars Episode 3 PlayStation 2 video
Correct,
game.
you do.
And
Oh my god, I didn't think anyone else ever played that.
That game was fucking dope, dude.
All of those older games were dope. And I know that's a whole nother
We'll
segment.
go into it. Yeah. Okay.
But Luke and Mara get married. There's a whole storyline. But essentially, Jason goes to the dark side. And it's this, I want to say it's 6 or 7 books. I can't remember off the top of my head. I've read it multiple times. It's phenomenal, just the way that they go into depth about his actual fall to the dark side and how he thought he was doing good, and the real life parallels of a descent into evil, if you will. How people think that, it actually followed. I saw a lot of parallels with World War II. They're on Coruscant. Jason starts a secret police program to stop people that are, they consider them terrorists. This is after the G.O.G invasion, and they are essentially working to end this Corellian terrorism on the planet. But instead, they just become super racist towards Corellians. He descends into this nationalistic fervor that ends up proceeding his way into the dark side. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but he has to kill someone he loves to finalize his descent. But he actually takes Ben Skywalker, the child of Luke and Mara, and makes him his apprentice. Like I said, no spoilers. I won't go any farther. But that is hands down something that I would love to see into a movie. And obviously we're not going to get it because with the Disney acquisition, as you know, that is no longer canon or any form of cared about literature.
It no longer applies to the story as a whole, and that is unfortunate, I will say.
Some of that creative freedom is what I think makes Star Wars so phenomenal.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think there was a lot that happened in that story in particular. I mean, if you think about it, it's a story about these twins that...
you read them.
Well, not that I read them, but I know of.
I'll let you borrow them.
Yeah. Can I get some more Jack, please?
Oh, dude, of course you can get some more Jack. Are you kidding me? Is this not America?
It's just mostly Coke at this point. That's good right there. Okay.
No, it's not mine.
So this story it's about these twins that one ends up heading towards the dark, the other the light, and it's.
He doesn't head to the dark. He goes balls deep in it.
It's tragic because he ends up killing. He kills Mara Jade. Is it Mara Jade?
Whoa, spoilers, bro! I just said I'm not going to say the spoilers on who he killed.
Oh, that's just one. But so this. I'm trying to make a point with this. So check this out. So
he does it for a kid, though. He does it for his own daughter. That's a secret daughter.
So, and this is the interesting thing about this. I think it was a smart move for them to steer away from it in the stories that they wanted to come up with. One, because the twins thing, it's just too coincidental. It's like, yes, Star Wars is cyclical, and a lot of the things start to happen, and you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that's the same thing. It's everything moves in a freaking circle, but at the same time, it just would have been too like twins again, really, and. So I think there's a lot. That's just one example.
I agree with that, and Star Wars is very cyclical, but some might argue that this new movie series is a repeat, if you will, with just a new skin of the originals. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I've heard that argument time and time and again from your other diehard Star Wars fans. That they think that it's too coincidental. A big issue with the Star Wars series that I've personally had, which is why I like the expanded universe so much, and even though this is my favorite series and it does flow with the Skywalkers, if you will, though in this case the main characters are solos, though with the Skywalker blood in them still, is we are too focused on the Skywalkers. There is this entire universe going on, which is why I think Rogue One and the Solo Story were such great movies, is the fact that they don't focus solely on the Skywalkers. So many things happen throughout the Star Wars universe at all times that are not even touched upon because they don't interact with the Solos.
Yeah, and you're looking for more stories set apart from the Skywalkers.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it... I understand because it's the very the Skywalker line, the clan, if you will, is very much the centerpiece of the Star Wars universe as it's been laid out before us. So it's expected that the Skywalkers will be involved in some way. But at the same time, majority of the things that I would argue that a majority of the things that the Skywalkers would do would not be possible without the help of individuals that are not Skywalkers.
Understood. Yeah. All right. So we're getting into a topic that we're definitely going to touch on later. I want to take us back a bit to the Disney acquisition.
Oh yeah, shit. And we spiraled.
Yeah, big time, and that's what happens.
Story of my life.
Yeah. So you get George Lucas, who during this drought, we had Episode 3 release. When we were in junior high, I think it came out.
Yeah, I definitely did school for it.
And
do you remember the fucking explosion in the back of the school? No, listeners, it wasn't like some crazy bomb or anything like that. A pipeline blew up. Remember that? A water main blew up.
Yeah, me and my dad fixed it.
Yeah. I was at watching Star Wars.
That was that day. Oh, damn.
It was great.
And then that weekend, my dad and me went into the back of our school and fixed what it was a fire sprinkler line. But anyways.
I hope your dad paid you.
No.
Of course not. But my dad never paid me either. It's okay.
The school gave him a discount on tuition, though. So,
hey, you know what? Cheers to that, dude. That works, school was not cheap.
Cheers, yeah.
Private school
he
problems.
Got him for it. So, We were without Star Wars for a really long time. As far as we knew, George Lucas had no intention of making any more Star Wars. He had talked about how pretty much the saga was complete. We had 6 movies. We had the 3 that originally came out in the late 70s and early 80s.
The re-releases.
And then we had the re-releases of those. And George Lucas had always...
the special editions.
Yeah, George Lucas had always had intended to create a prequel. He drops... little hints towards that, you served my father in the Clone Wars, when Princess Leia had her fucking British accent.
And admittedly, I have no... she did for a while. Yeah. I admittedly have no problems with the prequels. I mean, everyone hates on Jar Jar. I really wish that the Jar Jar Sith theory was real, but I can't buy into it.
I don't know about that.
I wish it was real because it'd be fucking hilarious. But admittedly, I'm glad it's not. I don't buy into it. But there were a lot of aspects of the prequels that I very much enjoyed. I remember, growing up, I would sit on the floor and rebuild Legos over and over
that was
for
another
years.
Passion that we had was the Star Wars Legos.
But I would build Star Wars Legos. I'd make my own, Geonosis battles and things along those lines while watching the Clone Wars. I think I watched the Clone Wars 100 fucking times. And one of my favorite scenes will always be Anakin walking the steps of the Jedi Temple, and when the kid comes out of the master's chambers saying that they're being slaughtered, and he turns his lightsaber on. That was such a powerful scene.
Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What should we do?
I know I'm laughing, but when he turned that lightsaber on, I was like, yes, Sith Empire, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So for the listeners, I admittedly have a Sith Empire tattoo on my arm as we speak. I was so excited to get it. It's not going to be my last Star Wars tattoo, but it's the one I got right now. And I've always been a strong believer in the dark side. And we could argue that till we're blue in our face later.
I've always leaned towards the light side, just so you know. So that is where him and I differ on matters, where he's very pro Sith, pro dark side, and I'm just like why? I don't understand.
Well, I'm happy to explain that later in the show.
Yeah, we can get into it later.
But back to the Disney acquisition.
So George Lucas, I want to know, was it the right move?
So LucasArts was still creating things during that time frame. Star Wars,
The Force Unleashed,
Force Unleashed 2, which not as good, but I liked it.
Played fantastic.
Way too short. I could agree with that completely. There were prospective games such as 1313, which we discussed earlier, which I was very much looking forward to. But one of my favorite games, and I'll be honest, it was a game that I played throughout my entire time in the Marine Corps, was the Old Republic. Not the Knights of the Old Republic, though I did replay that, and I noticed that it is on your phone available.
Oh, you saw that, motherfucker?
Oh, yeah, I bought it, and I've played it. I played it the way I wanted to, because I knew I played the best ending sort of situation.
Dark side.
Yeah, duh. What are you talking about? But the Old Republic was, to be honest, it seemed a lot like a Warcraft skin.
And for our listeners, if you're scratching your head because you don't know what the Old Republic is, so Knights of the Old Republic was the original game that was released on Xbox, the original Xbox. It was honestly one of the founding games. Xbox would not be what it is today without Knights of the Old Republic.
I agree with that completely.
They came out with Knights of the Old Republic 2.
That was Xbox 360, I believe.
I can't remember what the subtitle was, but...
Lords of the Sith, I want to say?
Lords of the Sith, that's what it was, yes. And that dealt with kind of the same story. You weren't the same main character. You were the Jedi outcast. And then we went dark for a long time. And then they released this huge...
It was an MMORPG.
Massive multiplayer online RPG. And I was pumped when it was like being promoted and everything, but then
it ended up being a Warcraft skin. But I admittedly,
pretty much
during my time in the Marine Corps, I played that almost daily with one of my best friends.
It's a beautiful game. I'm not gonna lie.
He was my old squad leader, and him and I would play that for hours and hours and hours. Naturally, we were Sith. I was a Sith Marauder,
course, yeah.
Double lightsabers with a Vindicator mask on. I live in the best life, if you will. The game was fun, but it was more of a stopgap. I always wanted, more of like a Star Wars Final Fantasy game, if you will. Final Fantasy has done a really good job in the past of
you don't have to tell me. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan.
We bonded on that growing up. We always played Final Fantasy together. I remember when we figured out that I think it was 7 that you could play with 2 people, and we would sit there. That and Dragon Ball Z, we would sit there and play it for hours.
Can you play 7 with 2 people? I don't think you can.
Maybe it's 8, 9, I don't know. There was a Final Fantasy game that you could play with 2 people. You got to control 2. You got to choose which party members you got to play. It was pretty cool.
Oh goddamn! I cannot remember for the life of me.
You're getting old, man. It is what it is. I'm getting old too. I've got white in my hair now. It's kind of bullshit.
I got white in my beard, so.
Oh, my beard's still red for whatever reason.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with that?
I hate to be the guy to ask questions, but why is my fucking beard red?
Yeah, Dad.
No one in my family has a red beard. I'm gonna say I'm part Viking and drink to that.
Hey, cheers, mate. Okay, clean. So
there's some pros and cons to the Disney acquisition in my mind. I think every time I say acquisition, I think Inquisition, and it makes me rethink about it.
But was it the right move?
For whom? For George Lucas? For Disney? Or for us?
For Star Wars.
For Star Wars as a whole, I'm going to say the jury's still out. For George Lucas...
Most definitely.
Dude got a
payday.
Guy's getting paid.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's getting his money. He's still staying on as a consultant. I keep tapping the table. I'm sorry. He's getting his money as he does. I'm Sicilian. I can't help it. I tap the table. My hands fly everywhere when I talk. You're Portuguese. You do the same shit.
I've had to train myself to stay as still as I am right now.
And you know what? I haven't because I don't have to. For George Lucas, most assuredly a good move. If he wanted to get out of the game, he's getting older. He has made his mark on the world. He really has.
Oh yeah.
He's changed generations of people's lives. For Disney, has it been a good acquisition? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to argue that it most assuredly has, based on the fact of how much money and revenue they've brought in based on everything. And I hate to admit it, but Disney has most assuredly moved from a company that was, let's make kids happy, to a large company. I mean, Disney owns way more than you could ever imagine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you look the fact Marvel
they're
is making them millions of dollars.
They just picked up Fox.
Disney owns Fox. They own most of the media organizations, and you wouldn't even be.
They own ESPN.
They own ESPN. The Hearst Group that back in the day you thought was this. They have a castle. They have a castle and all this. I mean, Disney's got like majority of the stuff that they used to own. Disney is a powerhouse. I mean, pretty soon I'm concerned that my car is going to have fucking Disney Mickey ears on the back of it while I drive down the road instead of, the Ford logo I drive.
They're taking over the world, man, I'm telling you.
They are. And you know what? When the Mickey Mouse Secret Police show up, we'll deal with that. That's a bridge I'll have to cross later.
I would like to
point out. But for Star Wars as a whole,
yeah,
the pluses are the fact that this giant corporation has the money to make those special effects the way that we want. I would argue that the beauty of Star Wars, if you will, the diversity and the ability to, and by diversity I don't mean the actual diversity within the actors, and I think that's its own issue in and of itself, but the diversity
but is it? Okay, we'll talk about that.
We could talk about that. The diversity of the alien species, the diversity of the different planets and environments, and the the different weapons, ships, everything that makes Star Wars what it is, the fact that there's multiple planets,
The variety,
if you will. All of those, Disney has the budget to make it happen.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it's a drop in the hat to them.
And that's honestly,
and the
I
fact
think
that
that's something people forget too.
People forget that. And they forget how much work went into the actual making of the original series versus the amount of CGI that went into, the original trilogy versus the models of the original trilogy. And the pullback to the models, once again, Disney has the money to pay for that. But the fact that Disney is also this company that wants to ensure that their revenue is working can also be a concern. And I think the concern is that they want to make sure that
money is a factor.
The money is the factor. It's no longer the artistic Star Wars feel that we grew up with.
So there's definitely some give and take. I want to throw in that first and foremost, it's important for people to remember that had Disney not purchased Lucasfilm,
we probably wouldn't have a new movie.
We wouldn't have any more Star Wars.
We wouldn't have Pogs, guys.
Pogs. For those of you who are bleeding heart Star Wars fans who want everything to look exactly like the original trilogy, I'm going to stop you and say, look, man, if that's what you wanted, this Star Wars is not for you. Don't go watch it.
But I would also argue that you should walk into there with an open mind.
Well, here's the thing.
We grew up with the Star Wars trilogy and at the same time, the original Star Wars trilogy. And you know what? When I walked into these...
On the later turn. Like
on the later turn, we were at the end. Yeah.
Before the prequels came out.
Yeah, we were at the end of that growth.
I mean, I still have all my original... that my aunt had passed to me, all the original VHSs.
Me too.
So, I pull them out, and I have, a VHS player that I keep in my storage, and whenever I want to watch the original cuts, I pop
when Han
in.
shot first?
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. They look so good, just the vintage look of everything.
They do. And, when you look at them versus what just cinematography
Dude, I've
as
watched
a whole
those
now.
movies so many times, it's unreal.
I'm surprised the VHSs that I have still work.
I think in the same way that the Ewoks were targeted towards a specific generation. They never even
said the name Ewok.
They did. No, it's a lot of these things are they
came from games and
toys. Yeah, where they finally defined some of these things. Like, how would you know that the walker is known as an AT-AT? You would have no idea.
You don't call it an AT-AT, do you?
No, I don't know.
Thank God.
Fucktards. No.
I'm sorry. Dude, I'm sorry. Anybody who listens that is an AT-AT fan, I'm sorry.
I
live with enough acronyms in my life. I can't.
I know. I just called them fucktards, but in those people,
those are your listeners, bro. I have nothing to say.
In their defense, okay, a lot of these people are of an older age, okay, and they were.
We just said we have white in our hair.
Well, these people are all white in their hair. So they were coming up around the time of the original trilogy, and the Kenner was putting out all these toys, and when they would have their commercials, they would literally pronounce them AT-ATs, even though it should have been AT-AT.
But they probably did that because the people that they had as the voices in those commercials were not Star Wars fans. They were just paid people.
Well, it's not so much about fans. It's just it's the knowledge. It's what are they telling the advertisement at Kenner about these toys? They're not. So especially because a lot of these toys were coming out before Empire Strikes Back comes out. In preparation, they're like, you can get the AT-AT and blah, blah, blah. And the movie comes out in another month or two. And everyone gets super hungry for Star Wars. I mean, this is the whole thing.
And literally upstairs, I have unopened boxes of Star Wars toys. I just refuse to open them. Oh, yeah. I've got a Lego Star Destroyer. Oh, I'm not going to open them. I've got a Lego Star Destroyer. I have the Lego... What is it? The TIE Bomber. I have a Lego TIE Bomber.
Shit.
Still upstairs.
Unopened.
No, fuck that. I built
you
that
opened
shit.
and built it. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I can never not open
So,
them.
Mike, you're going to find this funny. And, admittedly, I hope the listeners do as well. Because I keep forgetting that there are listeners. And I just think that Michael and I are having a conversation over a drink. I actually bought that Lego Star Destroyer. It's 10 parts or something like that. It's pretty big. It's about... I know I'm doing a hand gesture. You can't even see that. It's about shoulder width on me, and I'm a 6'2" guy. I'm a big man. I'm a pretty big man.
He's a large man.
I'd be large.
He's an extra large man.
Some might say I'd be a barbarian in a D&D class.
Ha ha.
I'm certainly no bard, and
I had no idea what that means.
Well, I'll teach you. So it's like a 9 or 10 part like packet that each part gets built. And I bought it so that every other day I would build one after work. So, I had something that wasn't spending money, going out, doing all these things. I got so fucking excited when it came in the mail from Amazon. I stayed up till 3 a.m. and I just built the whole goddamn thing. And I regret nothing. There's a little Darth Vader in there. It's great. It even shoots. It shoots turbo laser.
So the point I'm trying to make, I know we keep
is
getting
that we
off
always get off topic.
It's just very tangential. It's crazy, but it tends to happen with Star Wars. The point I'm trying to make is that in the same way that the Ewoks were directed towards a specific portion of the demographic who are watching Star Wars, the younger kids, right?
Same with the Pogs.
Same with the Pogs. But
though I have a fun story about the Pogs once you're done.
Before we even get there, take it to the prequels. The prequels were very lightsaber heavy. Why?
Because people like the lightsaber
People
battles.
fucking loved lightsabers, and they were like people responded to the original trilogy and the lightsabers. So okay, if we're
even though when you rewatch them, those battles were basically just what you and I did in scouting when we hit at each other with sticks.
Hashtag we were Boy Scouts. Hashtag
Eagle Scout. High five.
High five.
Got me an automatic promotion in the Marine Corps, so I regret nothing.
And back to Star Wars. So my point being that every time Star Wars comes out, it's as much as you and I want to be, oh, this is for us, it's not for us.
It's not.
This is for the next generation of Star Wars.
Correct.
And in the same way, I am...
Rough Star Trek choice of words.
What did I say?
Next generation.
Oh, yeah. That's another podcast. We'll talk about that. Picard? You see Picard coming out?
I do. I'm super excited.
So fucking
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back for that.
Oh, Jesus.
There is no level of nerdness that I will not delve to.
I mean, like I told you, a nerd of highest caliber. I'm telling you guys. But I am a huge Star Trek fan. Like,
I also have unopened Star Trek shows.
We'll talk about that another time. But as far as Star Wars goes, like, we're creating Star Wars for the next generation. I am a hardcore prequelist. I love the prequels, especially Episode 3. Like,
Episode 3 is one of my favorite ones.
my second favorite movie.
My first is actually Rogue One because the bad guys win.
Really? Oh, fuck you, man. So Empire Strikes Back is my number 1.
It was a beautiful display of Death Star.
Number 2. I would say Rogue One is probably my top 5, and mostly because I'm okay.
For me, I go Rogue One. Technically Episode 5, but Empire Strikes Back. Once again, because the bad guys on Hoth, they just fucked your guys' shit.
It was just, honestly, it was just a good...
Hoth was beautiful.
It was a good fucking movie.
But see, once again, they tried, in The Last Jedi, they tried to make a Hoth repeat. I think that they tried to do like a Hoth repeat parallel. I think they did. The snow speeders, they couldn't go into orbit. They're just not built for it. They were meant to be within atmospheric battles. And the same with the skimmers when they fought against
the speeder bikes.
Yeah, when they fought against the First Order's buffed up gorilla looking versions of the AT-ATs.
I'm trying to remember what the fuck you're talking about.
When Luke,
what episode?
Last Jedi.
Oh, I remember. Oh, you're talking. Okay, I'm sorry. Skimmers makes a lot of sense now.
They're called Skimmers.
I was trying to figure out what the fuck.
That's their name.
I was like, what movie is he talking about?
If you'd like, I could pour you some more Jack.
No more Jack. I've had enough Jack. Okay, so,
ladies and gentlemen, we will be toasted by the end of this show.
I think I think that Star Wars, even though it's been very controversial since the purchase from Disney, I think it was in the best interest of Star Wars, because realistically, we wouldn't have any more Star Wars right now had Disney not purchased Star Wars. They have the budget to make it happen, and to make it happen in the best way possible.
Now, I will agree with you on that, though I think that they went the wrong direction.
I can disagree with that. I think, and we're going to move...
No, by wrong direction... By wrong direction, I don't mean like how they're going about it. I mean, instead of going forward into the future, I feel like they should have gone into the past. Because there are so many. But my biggest concern with that
was everyone to know what happened on film after Return of the Jedi.
I'll be honest, I can give a shit less.
But I mean, that's just you. There's a lot of people, a majority of Star Wars fans, including myself. What the hell happened to the Star Wars galaxy?
Read the books.
The books can go suck a big one. I'm telling you right now.
Careful,
okay?
that boy. Those are my faves.
Here's the deal. Okay, I never read. I take it back. I read some of the books. Okay, I read the Thrawn. I'm
gonna give you Legacy of the Force. The Thrall.
Thrawn trilogy.
Okay.
I read the Thrawn trilogy. I
was like, who the fuck
enjoyed
is
the hell out of it. I thought it was a fitting end for the Empire.
Remind me, correct me if I'm wrong. Thrawn is the blue guy.
Yes,
he's the Chiss.
He's a Chiss. Yes, from the Chiss.
From the Maw. He had the Maw. It was the research station within the black hole.
Yes. So he
had a jamming Star Destroyer,
over
the Indictor, I want to say.
I can't remember,
Invictor?
dude. It's been such a long time since I read those fucking books. And
there are a lot of words I don't remember because
honestly,
I'm drinking.
The new canon and how Thrawn is.
I want to clarify that this is being recorded at my home, so for all you people listening, do not drink and then go somewhere else.
Yes, do not drink and drive, please.
Please don't do that.
We are getting toasted while talking about Star Wars.
But I have a home with multiple bedrooms.
And I am crashing on his couch and not driving after this, just so you know. So there's our don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive.
Clean
Science.
All right. So
Chiss.
So Thrawn.
You know the Chiss were the only race that the other than the Mandalorians that were used as mercenaries that the Sith Empire actually recognized because the Chiss are so good at intelligence.
They're brilliant, yeah. But that's beside the point. Here we go. So I read that portion of the books, right? But everything else was too convoluted and too all over the place. The whole Palpatine clone shit was ridiculous.
And you know what? My concern is that the Disney is going to go there.
Luke going to the dark side, ridiculous.
I disagree. I feel like that makes sense. Luke was one step away from the dark side. I would argue that the reason that Vader actually stopped Luke in Return of the Jedi is not specifically because he was trying to protect the Emperor, but because that is almost an exact replica of the moment that Anakin Skywalker, who obviously, please tell me you know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader, because if you don't, you're on the wrong podcast. Spoiler alert! You're listening to the wrong podcast.
As Doctor Who's wife would say, spoilers.
When Palpatine, Chancellor at the time, but we all knew Darth Sidious, the do it scene, where he kills Count Dooku. That was almost an exact replica of Return of the Jedi, when he's saying, take your lightsaber and strike me down and take your place in the galaxy. And Luke used the Force, grabbed his lightsaber, and went to kill the Emperor. And if he did, what would that have done? Completed his fall to the dark side. He was that close to teetering. And Darth Vader,
I disagree.
Anakin Skywalker,
I think he needed to die.
Him.
I think he needed to die.
Palpatine, of course he needed to die.
He needed to die.
But if you strike someone down in anger, that is the step that is needed.
Did he strike him down in anger, or was he more
he
like?
Obviously didn't, because Darth Vader stopped him.
It doesn't matter.
I'm saying that specific scene.
When he swung his lightsaber,
he used the Force in anger.
He grabbed his lightsaber, which Palpatine had, and swung at him, and Vader stops him.
Correct.
That swing, was that done in anger?
I would argue that it is.
I don't think it was.
But regardless, it is an unarmed, non-defending himself person.
So what can you say about Mace Windu?
No, think on Mace Windu was the closest thing to a Grey Knight you can get, and those Grey Knights, that's no longer.
But the dude was spot on. He's too dangerous to keep alive.
Mace Windu's even fighting style was borderline onto the dark
with
side.
Vapan. Yes, we know. Well, if you don't know,
well, you should know. If you don't know, now you know.
If you don't know, now you know. Mace Windu had a lightsaber form
built for him
that he was the only one who was able to use, because anyone who had attempted to use it prior fell to the dark side. It was
overly aggressive.
It was designed to fight against the darkness, to fight against Sith Lords. That's why there is even a mention of him being sort of like this dark side user.
A Grey Knight.
He was, gray. He dabbled in the dark side.
Like Revan, the greatest of the fucking Jedi. And Sith, some might argue.
You'll have to excuse Craxiss. He's munching on some bread right now.
Fucking delicious.
So here's the thing. Mace Windu, in that moment, he knew what had to be done. He knew that Palpatine had to go. Okay. A lot of people will argue whether or not Mace Windu actually defeated Palpatine in that moment, or if Palpatine allowed himself to be beat so that way he can take that
Anakin
moment.
Can kill him and take the fall
now,
of the dark side.
It's my belief that he knew the outcome before it even happened.
I agree.
So he did indeed try his hardest, and he did indeed lose to Mace Windu, but he was so confident that he would be okay because he knew I have full seen this motherfucker, confident as Palpatine, knew that Anakin was going to stop him. Okay. I will say that even though that move was dark and it was like a Jedi is not supposed to kill, it was necessary. And that Palpatine in that moment needed to die.
Well, that can lead to the inherent issue with the Jedi Order that it's too definitive
it's too black
within
and white.
Its rules.
It's too black
which
and
is
white,
why
and it
I'm
needs
such
more
a
gray.
strong believer in the Sith Order. Now, as individuals,
I'm a believer in the Gray Order, but okay.
That's no longer canon.
Whether or not it's canon,
Hashtag Disney acquisition.
It still makes sense that you skate down the middle.
Yes, I agree completely. But because you can't anymore, I will support the Sith because emotions are a necessary portion of everyday life.
And
you can't marry,
you
can't have kids.
Honestly,
why would you not want to multiply force
We
users?
can talk about this until we're blue in the face, but I'm telling you right now, the prequels are not the story of Anakin Skywalker. The prequels are the story
of Obi-Wan Kenobi's fall. Failure.
I mean, you could say that, but I was going to say the prequels are the story of the fall out of grace of the Jedi Order.
Now, you could also go on YouTube and look up the Star Wars Old Republic and see when the Jedi Order fell out of grace the first time.
Well, here's the thing. The Jedi Order, they had become so... They've
been self-absorbed in their own hubris.
I hate to use this as an example, but I used to work for Starbucks. So here we go, okay? Starbucks.
Or Pete's Guy.
Or Pete's Coffee. If you don't know Pete's Coffee, it is a affiliate of Starbucks in California. They used to be the same company, but a lot of people that used to work for Starbucks said, we don't like the direction that this is going, and they left and created Pete's Coffee. Pete's Coffee...
Where are your listeners from?
I don't know, all over the place.
Cool.
We got people everywhere. But Pete's Coffee exists as what Starbucks used to be. They have a lot of the old equipment. They pull shots by hand, shots of espresso. Like, they're legit coffee house. Whereas Starbucks is like a fucking machine. They're more about quantity than quality. They're about putting drinks out quickly and serving the customer and
Coffee
making
Bean
that
and
money.
Tea Leaf is
okay?
on Camp Pendleton.
In that same way, the Jedi Order did the same thing. They were about efficiency, about finding Jedi before they were adults.
What's your midichlorian count? We're going to shit you out of Jedi.
They turned it into a science.
It was an assembly line.
Yes, they turned it into, let's find these kids, let's get them before they can be affected by emotions, and we raise them as the Jedi that we want them to be. And Which
was a brainwashed robot.
Now, let me ask you, what's the difference between what the First Order is doing?
Nobody said I like the First Order. I said
well,
I like
that's
the Sith
not
Empire.
what I'm not saying you like the First Order, but think about what the First Order is doing with stormtroopers like
those
Finn.
are legitimately brainwashed.
Where
that's actual brainwashing. Like that they have a brainwashing
It's the
program.
same thing.
You play Battlefront?
Yeah, but
You've seen how they get them, right?
It's the same.
They kidnap children.
I know, but it's the same exact thing as what the Jedi are doing.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
the light side's not the good side.
Well, that's the thing. It's my deepest belief that the Jedi
are garbage.
Got everything that was coming to them because they were you know what? Luke Skywalker fucking called it. Everything that Luke Skywalker said in The Last Jedi, the hubris of the Jedi.
Hubris is honestly the definitive keyword
thinking that their understanding of the Force was the only understanding of the Force. Thinking that they knew what was best and that anything else was wrong. Thinking that they could shut emotion out and that way it would prevent people from turning to the dark side. All it did was it bred more
it bred discontent.
Look how many. Watch the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The Clone Wars. You see
How many Jedi left?
Yeah, how many Jedi were
Ahsoka.
There are a number of Jedi that are famous, that have a bust of themselves in the Jedi Temple, that had abandoned their Jedi title. They left the Jedi Order. I think there was 9 of them. Ahsoka would have been the last one, but she technically never became a Jedi. She was a Padawan that when she was given knighthood, denied it. She said, fuck this shit. You didn't have my back.
Correct.
I can't trust the Jedi. I got to go find my own path. Thank God she did that because it allowed her to survive Order 66.
It also allowed her to look into other Force styles.
Beliefs.
Outside of just the strict mantra of the Jedi Order.
Ahsoka is the fucking best. I love Ahsoka, but that's a whole other topic. Okay.
Also, I like the fact that she used 2 lightsabers.
Let's rein it back in. I hope you guys like our all over the place style because we're just rambling about Star Wars at this point. But we're going to move it into some more structure here. So
we're not going to do it.
We've talked a little bit about the expanded universe. I understand you're obviously more pro keeping Star Wars in the style of what you feel it was good Star Wars in the expanded universe, in the books. So,
I'm chewing some bread. I'm sorry. All right. So, my thing with the expanded universe isn't necessarily the fact that all of those stories should be canon. Every book that I read in the expanded universe, I knew wasn't canon. I knew, Chewbacca dying in this capacity, the Yuzavong evasion. As much as I enjoyed all of those things, those weren't LucasArts canon. You know what I mean? But I was able to enjoy those. With the Disney acquisition, by just wiping those away, I feel like that's a backhand to the Star Wars community as a whole. It's, I kind of like those.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
And you can.
The Star Wars community as a whole, that specific term. Because the Star Wars community as a whole is comprised of a number of people who never invested themselves in the written works.
Correct, but the expanded universe wasn't just the written works. Some of the games were wiped out.
Okay, in that capacity, I am, to this day, a huge fan of The Force Unleashed.
Of course, it's wonderful.
Now, if anybody knows anything about The Force Unleashed, light spoilers here.
These are not going to be light. Michael doesn't do light spoilers.
I guess heavy spoilers, okay? Okay, I'm going to fucking spoil this for you so hard.
It's also 10 years old? You should know it by now.
Yeah, and honestly, it's so old that honestly the only way that you can actually play this game is on some sort of a subscription service.
Yeah.
Like on PlayStation.
Also, it's no longer canon, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they have a PlayStation Now, which is a subscription service that you can download older games.
I got all.
And I was able to. I used the free trial because
we should do my VR headset tonight.
That would be fucking dope. But I did a free trial of PlayStation Now. Loved every fucking moment of it. Managed to play. No, I'm okay. Managed to play every Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Unfortunately, it didn't have the DLCs that came
DLCs
exclusive,
great,
which
dude.
it made the game much longer. Okay, otherwise it was super short. Both of them actually.
Mostly the second was very short. The first one was short, but the second one was almost I think I beat it.
It was hell. I beat it in a day too. Yeah, it was super annoying, but it was beautiful. Just the whole game itself looked fantastic. And just the story of Rom Coda. Fuck, dude. I have a custom Black Series Rom Coda figure. It looks amazing. I made a custom Starkiller figure.
It also explains how the rebellion
thank you for getting back on topic. So that's essentially the spoiler I was talking about. Is The Force Unleashed was an explanation of how the rebellion came to be. It was an explanation of the emblem of how it was actually Galen Merrick's family crest. He was the one who founded and brought together the rebellion. How he did it, unfortunately, in an effort to fool and trick and betray the rebellion by gathering them all together and then having an ambush of all the leaders. He was Darth Vader's secret, quote-unquote, secret apprentice that ended up turning...
And depending on your choices, you could stay dark side.
But we all know that the only way that the rebellion is formed,
was meant to be...
He's meant to be light.
It's very hard to find video games these days where
it's you're meant to be
the bad guy unless you play GTA.
As far as extended universe goes, There was a lot that was good. There was a lot that was just really convoluted, like the whole way that Chewbacca died. Oh, I could not get on board with that. There was a lot of things that really just were just too much. The Yuzong Vong alone was so...
I like the Yuzong.
There's a lot of people that didn't like it. I'm in the middle, leaning towards not liking it.
I mean, there are things outside of this galaxy, and to think that there isn't, the fact that there's this much life within this one specific galaxy. Just to interject, if you have any questions about what we're talking about, or your own personal opinions or disagreements, I would recommend. I mean, I'm not going to read them. Send them over, and like it'd be awesome to get some community involvement in this.
If you guys are interested, we will do a follow up to this episode of Star. I know we have a lot of Star Wars fans in the Discord, a lot of people who follow us. If you guys want us to do another follow up. Really, I'm not going to do it unless you reach out to us and let us know. I want you guys to listen to the G.O.G. It's fun to have, people other than the bees talking to you guys about things that we love. So if you guys are interested in having a follow-up to this, reach out to us, send us questions. What do you want us to talk about specifically about Star Wars? Because we're going to touch on a few things here, but not everything.
And I'm happy to come back and try and answer any questions that you have, or discuss any, defend any of my opinions, or discuss any of my opinions.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it's...
Because you don't know everything about Star Wars, so...
No, of course not. And I'll be honest to say that I don't think anybody actually knows everything about Star Wars. And I think anybody that says that they do will find that somebody else that says that they do will argue with them till they're blue in the face.
If they do, then that person go fuck themselves.
But at the same time, that's the beauty of the fucking Star Wars community.
Yep.
It's the same thing that the expanded universe, wrapping this shit back around, it's the beauty of the expanded universe that has been cut off.
So we've talked a lot about... randomness, to be honest, but I
feel like it all kind of stayed within the Disney and expanded universe.
But I want to take away that really, not only is this expanded universe, it is different than what we get in canon, but they have pulled so much references and things that are related to the actual stories that we got in what is now the expanded universe in these books that you love so much. Just to look at the relationship that we have between Kylo Ren and Rey, it is a very similar relationship in where they both care about each other, but obviously someone's got to deal with somebody. It's the same Jaina and Jason Solo.
Correct.
But it's different. So it's like I also want to pull that they've taken so many influences. I think it reflects not only the Jaina Jason, but it reflects in a lot of ways the Bastila and Revan.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're setting up not only does Star Wars.
I'm glad you touched on that, because they're trying to pull from that Old Republic era to, I think, to tease to the fact that they're going to go in that direction.
They're saying, look.
But at the same time, I don't want them to do that, because I want that Old Republic era to be its own standalone world.
It's going
the Hyperspace Wars and the Mandalorian Wars are two pivotal, amazing moments.
It's going to be, but this is what's important to realize is that we've talked about previously in this own episode that things are cyclical in Star Wars. Things happen again and again, and things start to tie back to previous events. History repeats itself.
But going back to the Old Republic essentially gets rid of that whole Skywalker line. There really is no Skywalker line at that time. I'm sure somebody could trace the family all the way back.
And this is my point. Let me finish. This is my point. Not only do things repeat within the Skywalker saga, things repeat all the way back to when Revan was relevant, to when Darth Bane was relevant. All these things, these events, have happened again and again and again.
I would argue the Bane
leading
reference.
to the balance of the Force.
I would argue the Bane reference, because Bane really became the start of the rule of two after the Sith Empire fell. And the Sith Empire really fell more so to infighting than it did to anything else, which is typical of the Sith way. Sith they're conniving, they fight against each other, they're always vying for power. an apprentice cannot become a master unless they kill their master, sort of situation.
Let me pose this to you.
The rule of two didn't begin until after the Sith Empire
The
fell.
rule of two technically began... Okay, and again, a lot of this is non-canon.
It's not canon anymore, so we're arguing non-canon, admittedly.
We're talking about things that are likely to be dealt with in future movies.
And if they don't, I'm going to be really pissed.
No, they are. So they're going to start touching on things in the formation of the Jedi and around this time. So what we're talking about is relevant. It is relevant. So and at the same time, it is canon. The rule of two is canon.
The rule of two is canon
Bane
because
is
it was
canon.
in the actual movies.
Bane is canon. It was in the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yoda specifically spoke to an apparition of Bane, who wasn't actually an apparition of Bane. It was more like a test, but the knowledge is there. It is known within the Star Wars universe.
It is.
They know
but
that
the connection
Bane,
to the Sith Empire and the way that the Sith Empire, they don't really touch on the Sith Empire. They don't touch on.
Well, it's because the Sith went into darkness. They went undercover. They went undercover. Well, that's what I mean by darkness. Is they went undercover and they disappeared, and that's why we haven't seen a Sith for 1,000 years, have we? Like you know.
The Sith.
I don't think that's what they actually said. But
the
I
Sith
said it
presence has been there throughout all of these Star Wars stories, regardless if they're obvious or not. The Sith transitioned after the fall of the Sith Empire, non-canon, to a more subterfuge approach with the rule of two, a master and apprentice, and the apprentice becomes the master after the master is killed.
Who officially started the rule of two?
Bane.
Who inspired him to start the rule of two? Darth Revan.
I would argue Revan and Vidiot.
We know
Darth Vidiot, who was the Sith Emperor.
Vidiot, okay? Vidiot.
Whoa! Vidiot successfully captured Revan. Now, this is an argument that I've had with many people.
Look, man,
I'm a fan of Vidiot.
You can argue that Coder and Star Wars: The Old Republic,
well, Vidiot was Old Republic,
are completely separate stories, and it's completely up to Disney.
They do mesh.
They do, but Coder doesn't necessarily imply that The Old Republic is going to happen.
Correct.
So it's up to Disney then, and I think everything
fun fact,
that happened,
the Old Republic was just called the Republic.
Whatever. I believe that everything that happened in the Old Republic game is never going to be used.
I agree, and that bothers me
because of licensing.
Yeah, BioWare.
It belongs to BioWare.
Will not let it happen. But
fuck no.
But what's bad is BioWare has done such a good job with the storyline. I don't know if I mean this is going to be a shameless plug for the Old Republic, and I admit it. And I think that I have such a and I'll be the first to admit that I think I have such a soft spot to the Old Republic. It got me through some real shit when I was in the Marine Corps. Playing that game was like countless hours of me being able to like deal with real life shit. And obviously we're not going to get into that right here. So it does have a soft spot in my heart, and it was a very
You have an appreciation for the game.
I do, and it was a very bonding situation between myself and someone who I consider a brother still to this day, and we talk weekly. This game, each individual playing class had its own storyline, and each one of those storylines was well thought out and made. Now, let's not.
The game was fantastic.
The game was fantastic, and we're talking about Old Republic, not Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes. Which also was a fantastic game.
By God, Knights of the Old Republic was
probably my favorite game of all time.
Oh, hands down.
I would say of all time.
I will agree with you completely. Yeah. I will hands down agree with you. Seconded only to Star Wars Battlefront 2, and not the new one.
Oh, yeah, the original one, Xbox 360.
When I could have a campaign and take over the entire galaxy with space
that
battles,
shit was pretty
ground
great.
battles.
I'm not gonna lie.
We have a video game section, so I'm not gonna.
We're gonna get into it a little more. Yeah.
But that was hands down, like that was number 2 to KOTOR. KOTOR 2 was pretty good. I like Darth Nihilus. He was kind of cool. But I think the Revan Malik.
I think the threat of Nihilus was
the
fantastic.
Threat of Nihilus was more scary than fighting Nihilus
a force
himself.
Entity that literally can devour force the force users.
Though non-canon, Palpatine could also destroy a planet with the force.
Yeah, but in a different way, I would say.
Yeah, he just destroyed the whole planet.
Yeah,
and I don't mean with the Death Star.
This was more like he consumed the force,
but he ate the force,
and he was a product of what happened in the original KOTOR, which was which was Revenant Malak at Malachor, launched this weapon that annihilated
the Forge.
They annihilate. No, not the Forge. No.
You're right.
At Malachor, they annihilated the Mandalorians. To defeat the Mandalorians, they had this weapon that killed everybody, and it affected a number of Jedi that survived. One of which was the main character of the second coder, the Sith Lords, and it is a she officially. The Jedi outcast was a woman who lost her Force abilities. She was severed from the Force.
And had to rebuild itself.
And reconnect herself to the Force. And
but see, those
Nihilus was one.
I think those types of weapons are a much more not compulsive, a weapon that people can connect with in a much larger capacity than, say, a new version of the Death Star.
Yeah.
Death Star .2.
Now.
And then Star Killer Base, which is .3.
It keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, and then, now we have a ship that's bigger than Star Killer Base.
Now it's a planet.
Like,
That's no moon, it's a planet.
Exactly. But something that, like, a weapon that literally just siphons the Force from everyone on a fucking planet. I think, dude, I'm shitting bricks thinking about that.
I think that's some.
Can you imagine if you knew that a single ship was coming with an individual on it that could literally suck the Force out of everyone? I would be scared.
I think it's a weapon for a more civilized age.
Exactly. Except you have to deal with the bodies.
I think we're going to get into that, okay? Before we dive into that a little more, because that's essentially part of the next thing that we're going to talk about, I will say that realistically, what they're going to start diving into is more old canon.
No longer canon.
There's two expanded universes. There's before Yavin and after Jakku. For those of you that don't know what Jakku is,
BYAJ.
The Battle of Jakku was the last battle that took place in the war with the Empire, where the rebellion finally defeated the Empire after the events that took place on Endor when the second Death Star was destroyed. That wasn't it. The Empire still existed. They needed to be extinguished. So the rebellion kept fighting, led them all the way to the planet of Jakku,
where they had their final stand.
Same planet that we see in Episode 7, The Force Awakens,
with Rey on.
And that's the ship
that's why Rey is able to go through all of those ships, because those are the emptied husks of destroyed Star Destroyers,
and that's why there's
Mon Calamari cruisers.
Yeah, and that's why there is a large scavenger community on Jakku, because they're scavenging from the remnants of the Battle of Jakku, right?
I mean, and you could imagine these ships. You could see how big these ships are. I mean, when you look at Rogue One, you have that entire city has a Star Destroyer over the top of it.
Yeah,
and the Star Destroyer.
Huge.
I actually saw a very interesting YouTube video.
We're drifting.
I don't. Well, this is relevant to this. I saw an interesting YouTube video that showed the actual relative size of
a Star Destroyer,
Star Destroyers, Death Star 2, all of the
AT-AT,
all
not
of them,
AT-AT.
all of them, anti-AT-AT, all of them, and the Star Destroyer. I want to say the Star Destroyer was like the size of Manhattan. Like when you look at the size of these ships, you can imagine the technology that scavengers are going to be going for.
Oh yeah.
If something like that were to crash on, let's just say Earth, let's say it falls in, we don't want anyone to get hurt, so a big ass cornfield
somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah, some big ass cornfield in the Midwest where no one got hurt.
Oh shit, Delilah! They took out my corn.
God damn it!
God damn that darn Star Destroyer!
So you could dig into that.
Hashtag I'm toasted right now. Anyways, let's go on.
Hashtag we love Midwesterners. Jakku, excuse me.
It's Jakku.
Jakku. Yeah. Fucking
Jakku.
Jack and Coke, bro. Jack and Coke.
I live on the planet Jakku.
Jakku is you're at that battlefield.
At the Battle of Jakku. In Battlefront 2, yes, I remember. I played the story. It was really good. What is your point?
My point is, I agree with you.
So back to what I was saying. There is expanded.
My point is I spiraled. I forgot my
Is
train of thought.
yes, that's my point.
We're only a third left.
We're about a third left through the bottle. All right, guys. So there is expanded universe after the Battle of Jakku, and then before the Battle of Yavin. What is the Battle of Yavin?
What?
The
Yavin 4?
The Battle of Yavin.
Yavin 4.
Yes.
Battle of Yavin 4.
Do you have to say 4? Just Yavin. Come
There
on.
are multiple Yavins.
Oh, come on, bro. Like, we all know the main battle.
Some were used as sentries.
Was there a battle at Yavin 3? No, I don't think
You know
so.
what? There might have been a ship battle at Yavin 3.
There might have been, but it was a long-ass time ago. The one that
Well, so was Yavin 4.
The one that matters is the Battle of Yavin.
The Battle of Yavin 4,
yes,
where the forces of the rebellion, and I'm saying this very upsetly because I'm still a supporter of the Empire, the forces of the stupid rebellion, the terrorists, if you will, they held off the Empire to allow time for
Jesus,
Han
Mary
Solo
and Joseph.
and his big ol' stupid group of people to get the big
the
ol' dumb Ewoks. Yep, you know where I'm going with this.
The Battle of Yavin 4 was... No, dude. You are tripping. You are toasted like a mofo right now.
Am I tripping?
Yeah, apparently, yeah, because the Battle of Yavin 4 had no Ewoks.
Oh, fuck me. It was the first one.
Yes, fuck you. The Battle of Yavin 4...
That was Endor. Oh, my God.
He's tripping balls,
Holy
everybody.
shit, I've drank a lot.
The Battle of Yavin 4 was the very first episode of Star Wars that ever was released.
Holy shit,
which
dude.
took place at Yavin, not Endor. It was the first Death Star, right?
Wow.
So,
guys, I apologize. I actually know my shit, but clearly not when it involves whiskey and Coca-Cola.
So anyways, guys, the Battle of Yavin 4 is the turning point. It's essentially what we're saying is it's the very first Star Wars movie that ever came out, and the end of that war, right?
Hashtag exhaust port.
Everything that takes place before that and after that, initially, before we got the prequels, was expanded universe. It was the new canon until Disney came along and was like, nah, fuck that. We're going to create our own canon. So
Hashtag Rogue One.
primarily, what we've dealt with up to this point,
the,
since
cartoon series.
Disney acquired Lucasfilm, is after the Battle of Jakku. We have not done anything as far as film goes. Now, we might have had some books that dealt with some things.
Disney, Battle of Jakku wasn't before Disney got involved, was it?
It was after Disney got
Yeah,
involved.
Battlefront was after Disney.
That's
they didn't even talk
completely
about
besides the point. Now that we know after Disney came around, we know that the Battle of Jakku was the final battle. Okay,
Right.
and we know that all of the events that would have taken place in the expanded universe, what is now the expanded universe, would kind of fall into that category of post Return of the Jedi after what we saw on film, right? So we've dealt with everything after that.
Expanded universe, there is some interesting stories about the Imperial Remnant.
Yes, I understand that, but this is my point: is that we've only dealt with things after Return of the Jedi. Okay,
Which is why we should go back.
we're going to. Okay, there is a large body of work that took place before even Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, where there was a amazing fucking Darth Plagueis book that deserves
phenomenal.
Have you read that book?
Goddamn right I have.
read that book.
That would be a great movie series.
It was so good learning about Palpatine.
But you know what? But I'll be honest, I think that would be a better TV show.
I think it would be a great TV show. I think they need to utilize that.
Maybe just like a mini series.
Disney
Give
Plus,
it some HBO bonus.
Disney Plus. They need to utilize Disney Plus, and they need to create a Palpatine show, and they need to cast Tom fucking Hiddleston.
Oh God, yes.
They need to cast Loki as the young version of Palpatine.
Can you tell me he would not be the perfect
He would be
fucking
the
Palpatine?
perfect young Palpatine who meets Darth Plagueis, who meets the apprentice of Darth Sidious,
Yes.
who is the Sith Lord that Palpatine was. Okay, a lot of people just know him as as Palpatine. Oh, he's Emperor Palpatine. No, motherfucker
Darth
was
Sidious.
Darth Sidious. Okay, he was the apprentice.
I mean, his name may have been Palpatine.
It was Palpatine. His literal name, Anakin was Darth Vader. Jesus.
I know that. I'm saying his name may have been Palpatine, but Darth Sidious sounds so much fucking better.
Whatever. Okay, so Darth Sidious was
Many
the apprentice
died to get you this information.
Jesus. So Darth Sidious was the apprentice of Darth Plagueis. I'm telling you right now, Palpatine is by far the greatest of all Sith Lords. I can tell you this confidently because the man was able to, without really picking up a lightsaber,
The dude picked up nothing but a pen.
The guy managed to get himself in the highest position of power of the Republic and essentially kill every Jedi with the utter of one phrase, execute Order 66.
Which, I still get chills every time.
The man was the greatest Sith Lord that ever existed. No other Sith Lord, even Malgus. Thank you, Malgus. That motherfucker led a charge on the Jedi Temple, and he killed a lot of Jedi. He didn't kill all the Jedi, but he killed a lot of Jedi, okay? Him and all those Sith. They drive a fucking ship full of Sith.
Which you will notice looks exactly like a clone dropship.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Minus the beam weapons on the wings.
They take a lot of nods in the Old Republic from future designs of ships and things to make
because
it seem
they're trying
like
to make them
these
look like they were
things
precursors.
Evolved. Yeah, so it's interesting. But he takes a full drop ship full of Sith with lightsabers, ready to swing and ready to kill.
I have had every time I watch it, I get a half chub.
Drives it straight through the doors of the Jedi Temple, and then the door, the ramp opens and lowers, and then all of a sudden it's dark inside the ship. It's quiet, and then all these lightsabers.
Notice the masks that they're wearing. Those are Sith Vindicator masks.
Interesting.
Those are Sith Vindicators.
I have no idea what that means.
So Sith Inquisitors were more focused on the Force side of things, while Sith
These
Vindicators
were lightsaber combat.
Yes.
Okay.
They're like Jedi Sentinels versus Jedi Consulars.
But they're the Sith version.
They're the Sith version.
Hashtag
Shocker.
old canon, motherfucker.
Also, if you play the Old Republic game, you could be a Sith Consular or a Sith Sentinel.
Or
Sith Guardian.
Anyways, he leads this charge. They go in. They kill who I believe is the. What was Mace Windu again? He was the weapons master or something like that.
Sword master,
something along those lines.
But they kill. But actually,
they killed that version.
But see, my understanding of when I watched it, I actually thought that he was the master of the order.
I don't think he was the master of the order. I think
because they were at a ceasefire. When that happened, they were at a ceasefire. They were in peace talks.
It was. Don't get me wrong. I haven't played the game.
So I don't know off the top of my head because they don't actually talk about
this.
This
is based on just the knowledge that I've consumed based on this video because I used to follow this shit hardcore.
All of those, actually, interestingly enough, all of those videos don't happen in the game.
No, they're before the game.
They happen prior to.
Yes.
So watching those videos and how awesome they are, I was super excited to play the game. And
then pumped to play the game.
I'll be honest, I got a little butthurt when I didn't go to the Jedi Temple and fuck everybody up.
No, it was more like this is what is going into the game. Yeah. And I understand that because they're trying to build like an understanding of where you're at.
Well, it built the fuck out of the hype and it worked for me.
Anyways, so Malgus leads his attack. They kill tons of Jedi. It's fucking sick. If you haven't seen the video, look that shit up. It's amazing. Even better than him is Palpatine because Palpatine
Malgus was not. Palpatine
manages to, using the long-lasting rule of two, which was established by Bane, where he was hiding in the shadows, building his power,
stuck with a parasitic armor,
and that's hit. Fuck whatever, man. That's Bane. Fuck Bane. Okay, we're talking about Palpatine at this point. So here's
why I never
Palpatine is the product of 1,000 years of dark side building.
Manipulation.
Here's the thing. You have one to hold the power and one to crave the power. Mm-hmm. And in order to become the one that holds the power, you have to get strong enough to defeat your master.
Correct.
They did this for 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. 1,000 years of, I have to get better than my master in order to kill him.
Yeah, why do you think I get a fucking half chub every time we talk about this?
They did this for 1,000 years.
This is literally why the Sith were able to be better.
They conquered the galaxy.
Because every step of the way,
and there was only 2 of them.
Well, so they had to be able to proceed in the Sith Order. You had to take what was given to you and make it better. The Jedi did not do that. You just had to take what was given to you and be good. That's it. You had to follow their rules, their dogma, their doctrine. You had to subscribe to their hubris. And you were, anytime that you went outside of this little box that you were given,
they reined you back in.
They reined you back in because they were concerned that you were going to the dark side.
Qui-Gon was honestly the true
was a great Jedi.
The true hope for the Jedi Order was Qui-Gon and his way of thinking.
I will argue that Qui-Gon was a great Jedi.
Qui-Gon
and he
knew of the living Force. He knew of what the Force was and how the Jedi needed to reform themselves.
Correct.
You look back at Obi-Wan and he was
look
like,
at
Master,
the,
if you would just stop going against the Jedi Order, you would have been on the council already.
And Qui-Gon didn't give a fuck about the council.
Didn't care about politics.
Because it wasn't politics. It was
the Force
realism
that he cared about. He cared about the Force.
That's what's important.
Yes.
Which is why Grey Jedi,
I
would argue that Grey Jedi are the most powerful. Which is why Revan was so powerful.
If Qui-Gon Jinn would have not died and he would have lived on to reform the Jedi Order would not have gone through Order 66.
I still, to this day, do not think Qui-Gon Jinn died because of weakness. I do not think Darth Maul was more powerful than Qui-Gon Jinn.
I think he was more skilled in lightsaber combat.
And notice, who are the Jedi that are able to make Force... Let's call them specters. I'm sure there's a specific word for them that I don't know. Specters of themselves. Qui-Gon, Yoda.
Where's that at?
What are you talking about?
The specters. Where do you find that at?
You see him at the end
I know what you're saying. Force Ghosts.
Ghosts, thank you.
Jesus, what is wrong with you?
I play D&D a lot. Fuck off. There's no stat blocks for fucking ghosts.
Oh my god.
But there's no... How many Jedi do you see do that?
Okay.
That's
obviously
something...
you're not caught up on canon. I'm going to inform you. Okay, Qui-Gon Jinn. Have you seen the Clone Wars? Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about this because one of the things that's on my list here that we're going to talk about
the Clone Wars before they rebooted the Clone Wars.
You know what? We're going to say fuck this and move into a whole different category which is kind of naturally moving there. We're talking about TV series at this point. Okay? Correct. Have you seen the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
You've seen from beginning to end.
Yes. I liked the original.
Then you should know
than, the reboot.
Star Wars: The Clone Wars discussed everything about Qui-Gon. See, Qui-Gon was first reached out to by those individuals that reached out to Yoda.
Yes.
And he was taught that, look, you're delving in the Force that obviously no other Jedi really understands. And we find you...
I'm going to argue that they didn't have the balls to look into.
Yes, because they were too stuck in their rules.
They were indoctrinated.
Yes, they were too stuck, right? In their and this is what the Force is.
Yeah.
They were, what's the word that Luke used? Think about it. Last Jedi?
I'm drunk. Are we going back with hubris?
Hubris.
There we go.
They were stuck.
I said earlier hubris.
They were stuck in their hubris. So here's the deal. Qui-Gon was deemed worthy by these entities, who then trained him in how to sustain himself after death and maintain his consciousness while becoming one with the living Force.
Yes.
Unfortunately, by the time he died, he was cut. His life was cut early, and he hadn't completed his training to learn how to fully manifest himself visually. But his consciousness was able to be maintained. We learned this in the Clone Wars, which is when he is on the Mortis arc, when he's when Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka discover the mother, the father. The father, the brother, and the sister. Okay, there's no mother. Who was the mother? Anyways,
who's Anakin's daddy?
It was Ashla.
Oh my god.
Oh god. Hashtag if you know what Ashla is, hit me up at Gathering of Bros because that means you're a real Star Wars fan and you know like the deep cut shit. Anyways,
there's so much deep cut shit.
So he couldn't manifest himself visually yet, but he could maintain his consciousness, and he speaks to Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars.
I'm not sure if you're trying to argue my point or not right now.
Well, let me get to it. He speaks to Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. And then we see at the very end, in episode 3, at the very end, Yoda tells Obi-Wan, I will teach you how to speak to him. It's later on that Qui-Gon is able to manifest himself and eventually become a Force ghost. It took a while for him because he never completed his training while he was in life. But all the others, Yoda and Obi-Wan, and even Luke... As we'll see in episode 9, I'm confident, hashtag we're about to talk about that. Yes, they managed to complete their training of understanding how to become one with the living Force and maintain their consciousness. So,
I don't think that Qui-Gon had to die. I think that Qui-Gon allowed himself to die so that Obi-Wan could step up and train Anakin.
You're going to sit here and tell me that you don't think that... You think he planned to die?
Yes.
You think that...
You're going to tell me that the Sith are able to manipulate thousands of years of stuff
you're gonna tell
and
me,
one Jedi
You're going to sit here
can't?
and tell me that there was some sort of foreknowledge that was brought to Qui-Gon's attention, and that for some odd reason he knew, I have to die. And he allowed himself to die in order to fulfill a prophecy?
Yes.
That is a bold statement, my friend, because I don't think I've heard that anywhere.
I believe...
I'm going to be so bold to say that you are the first person that I have heard that statement from. That, in fact...
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or
I'm
not.
being completely serious because I stay in touch when it comes to the Star Wars theory. I think you were the first person to indicate that, as far as I know, and you know, like, somebody else could have said this somewhere and I just might not have heard him, but as far as I know, you're the first person to indicate that Qui-Gon had some sort of foreknowledge that he had to die and allowed himself to die in order for everything to play out the way that it did.
I think it did. I have thought this for a while. I think that... So, and I'll explain my rationale.
Please do.
I will. I think we watched Anakin get trained. Or, well, not trained, excuse me. We watched Anakin get tested by the Council. How many Padawans in general get tested by the Grand Council?
Darth Revan.
That's it. That's the only other one we know of, right? Look how that turned out.
Pretty good, actually.
In the long run. It went to shit for a while, though. But he also was, tested by the Council on Dantooine. So...
Well, I guess that's what I'm talking about.
That's not the Grand Council on Coruscant. That's not the...
Yeah, but
it was at the time because of the war. But that's...
Yeah.
We're going to go back to Qui-Gon.
That's my point, bro.
So my thing with Qui-Gon... The boy gets tested. Anakin. Vader. Whatever you want to call him. He gets tested. Qui-Gon says, well, I'm going to train him anyway. I don't give a shit. Obi-Wan goes, that's a terrible idea. You should listen to the Masters. Just like you said. If you listen to the Masters more, Obi-Wan has always been this... He's always the voice of reason. He's always been the voice of reason. Yet, when the time comes, Qui-Gon, you could see Qui-Gon when they're in the weird glowy light chambers that I still have no idea what purpose they serve, that blocks lightsabers.
What was the purpose of that shit?
The purpose is most likely to build tension.
And prevent Obi-Wan... To make
From
Obi-Wan witness his master's death.
Exactly.
That is some fucked up shit
exactly.
Right there. Thanks a lot, Lucasfilm.
Now hear me out with this.
Fuck you, George.
Now hear me out with this. Darth Maul sees this, and he's pissed, as a Sith is, channeling his anger. What does Qui-Gon do? He fucking meditates.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Why does he meditate?
Because he's one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Exactly, which I just watched a great movie from him where he's a teacher in Hong Kong. By the way, that actor is phenomenal in every movie.
Donnie Yen?
Love him.
Donnie Yen is fantastic.
I'm gonna give a plug for a movie that you have to read the subtitles for. It's called Big Brother. He's a teacher. He's an Army veteran. I watched it today. It is an amazing movie that talks about a lot of problems within the school system in Hong Kong.
Donnie Yen is Ip Man.
Yeah.
That's honestly the best role that he's
I watched him in Ip Man before I watched this.
Ip Man is fantastic.
I love him as an actor in general. And I love the fact that he's able to do movies in multiple markets.
Oh, dude, he's so sellable.
But back to what we're going.
Jackie Chan, I swear to God.
I also love me some Jackie Chan, but that's neither here nor there.
Besides the point.
What does Qui-Gon do? Qui-Gon meditates. He becomes one with the Force. And when he does, what happens next?
He dies.
He dies.
He dies?
He dies in view of Obi-Wan. What does Obi-Wan do when he dies?
He gets angry.
No, Obi-Wan dies in front of Luke Skywalker in a way that he was willing to die to prove a point.
Oh, damn, dude.
Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon both died to allow their Padawan to connect with the Force.
Oh, dude.
Qui-Gon dies knowing...
To motivate them.
Knowing that this is what's needed for Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan did not want Anakin to be trained. Obi-Wan didn't want Anakin to be trained. What does Obi-Wan do?
Let's run with that for a second.
Hear me out.
No, I'm hearing you out.
What does Obi-Wan do? Obi-Wan, because of Qui-Gon's death, it is his last request. Obi-Wan trains Anakin.
He is the chosen one.
He's the chosen one. What does he do? He trains him.
Listen.
He dies. Now Anakin
it's worth saying,
does the same death as Qui-Gon.
It is worth saying, if you think about how Obi-Wan died, when he enters the Death Star and he
knew
goes,
he was gonna die.
It's like realistically, that motherfucker knew he was gonna die.
It's almost like when Qui-Gon says, "We can handle this," knowing that he could have had support.
Dude, you are opening my fucking mind right now.
This is too coincidental of a trail.
Oh my God.
I hate to be like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that.
How have I never thought of this?
But when you look at it, Yoda trains Count Dooku. Count Dooku becomes a separatist. Qui-Gon steps in. Qui-Gon has the boy. Who does the boy kill to fall to the dark side? Anakin kills Count Dooku.
Oh my God.
Does
that mean Count Dooku was in on it too, by your logic?
Yes.
Count Dooku knew what he had to do. He knew the role he had to play.
He seemed very calm for someone who was about to be beheaded in front of his old master.
What if he didn't know?
It doesn't matter if he didn't know.
But he knew that he... What if Count Dooku was a student of the will of the Force, which we know he was.
Yep.
Because he was one of those Jedi that abandoned the Jedi Order. He was one of the famous Jedi that left the Jedi Order because he didn't agree with what was going on.
He only fell to the Sith because of Palpatine's involvement.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. And he dropped a mic and left. And then he went with the Sith. Well, you know why he went with the Sith? Because he knew that there was something going on and he needed to stop it. So he discovered who the Lord of the Sith was. Mm-hmm. And he said, I need to infiltrate. But the problem is with the dark side is
it corrupts.
All good intentions. What's the word? What's the phrase?
I was going to say that there's no greater evil than the evil that hides in the mask of righteousness.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately with Dooku, he believed that what he was doing was correct. But unfortunately, Palpatine took full advantage of that and turned his ass to the dark side. And once he was down that path, there was no turning back. That was it. Motherfucker was Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Tyrannus, that was it. And he was just evil incarnate.
When did the beginning of the dark side happen for Anakin? When he killed Dooku? In cold blood.
I disagree. I think even at that point, he was still in the light side.
I think when he
was
Dooku,
following what he believed to be his duty.
Now, there is no greater evil than the person who wears a mask of righteousness.
Who follows orders blindly.
Now, hear me out on this, because this follows the same thing. Count Dooku wanted Anakin to be trained, correct? Who did Anakin kill? Dooku.
Count Dooku wanted it. No.
Qui-Gon. I'm sorry. Qui-Gon wanted...
Get your shit right,
I'm
man.
drinking. Qui-Gon wanted Anakin to be trained. Anakin killed who?
Dooku. The master of Qui-Gon.
Exactly. What's the rule of two? The apprentice kills the master.
Son of a bitch.
This was all set up.
Obi-Wan
now Qui-Gon
wanted Luke to be trained. Who killed Obi-Wan?
Let's not get crazy now. Now,
Anakin,
exactly.
The father of Luke. Dude, this shit is crazy.
Exactly.
I've never thought about this shit.
So now look at the fact that this master apprentice or master Padawan, depending on what side of the Force it is, this line is one straight linear line. Yoda trains Dooku. Dooku trains Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon trains Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan trains Anakin. Anakin trains Luke. Who kills who?
Anakin didn't train Luke. Obi-Wan trained
Luke. Obi-Wan trained Luke.
So I backchecked a little bit.
So who kills Anakin? Kills Dooku.
It's getting convoluted at this point, but I know what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying,
I
right?
get what you're saying, yeah.
It's I think, and I don't think Qui-Gon was a Sith. I think Qui-Gon was a Grey Knight. And at the same time, as like you said...
I think he was a Grey Knight who went down a path because he thought it was the right thing to do.
I think he went down a path knowing that Anakin was not actually the chosen one, but was the father of the chosen one.
This is where I differ.
Now, he may have thought...
I don't think he knew shit about Anakin. I think he knew...
He saw the guy with the fuck ton of midichlorians and said, let's fuck this chicken.
What? No, dude. No. Look, I think Obi-Wan was essentially a product of what Qui-Gon had established with his belief of the living force. I think Qui-Gon was essentially set in motion by Dooku's belief in the living force.
Dooku's leaving of the Jedi Order.
I think Dooku
is what allowed Qui-Gon to open his mind.
Yoda trained Dooku. Dooku trained Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan. I think all of that is it matters.
No, if you look at the timeline, Yoda trains Dooku. Dooku becomes a knight. Dooku takes Qui-Gon as a Padawan. Dooku becomes a master. Qui-Gon becomes a knight, takes Obi-Wan as a Padawan. Dooku leaves the Jedi Order. Dooku does his own thing. But they are both one with the Force.
Dooku
believes in the Force, but is corrupted by the dark side when he tries to extinguish
Yoda
it.
becomes the Grand Master of the Jedi.
Becomes the Grand Master of the Jedi Order.
Dooku, his apprentice, leaves the Jedi Order.
Which, huge political fuck you, right?
And he leaves it because he believes...
I wonder how that election
went.
went.
And he believes firmly that the Jedi Order has lost its way.
Correct.
Which instills in Qui-Gon, who... If you would only agree with the council and stop fighting them, you would have been a...
but he doesn't give a shit about that.
You would have been on the council by now.
It instills Qui-Gon's ability to question, which is such an important
not only
aspect.
question, but always turn back to what is the will of the Force.
Which is the questioning part. So he questions the council's
and is the
motives
will of the Force
and instead looks at the will of the Force.
Yes, and is the will of the Force in line with what the council is doing?
What is something that individuals that are in line with the will of the Force are capable of doing? Look at Bastille. What can Bastille do?
I don't know. You tell me.
She can see aspects that are going to occur that involve the Force in advance.
See into the future.
She can see into the future. What does Qui-Gon do before
You mean Bastila?
Bastila, excuse me.
She can no. Bastila can do battle meditation, which
battle
is
meditation
different.
Is seeing the future of a battle. It is no different than any other.
No.
Can Yoda not foresee the future?
Battle meditation is using the Force to inspire your comrades.
I didn't mean Basil. I meant I forget her fucking name. The one from the Old Republic.
Satil Shan?
Yeah. Her.
So the descendant of Bastila
yes.
Shan.
Now, Yoda...
To be honest, I have no idea what the fuck she can do.
Yoda can see into the future, but it's blinded by the dark side, right? Who said that somebody that is gray and capable to navigate both the light and the dark is incapable of seeing the future if it's being blinded by the dark side? Why does Qui-Gon meditate before he gets struck down?
So let me get this right. Let me paint this out. So what you're saying is because Qui-Gon in his stance in the Force was more in the middle, he was more gray, arguably.
He could sift through the fuzz, if you will.
He was not exactly a victim of the dark side clouding the Force, because that's something that is recurring in the prequels, is that the dark side has clouded the Force. Mm-hmm. And they're unable to see what's going on, which is why there's two things why Palpatine was able to go undiscovered. Yes. Where he was, one, he could suppress his Force use, his Force sensitivity.
That I don't think is the clouding of the Force, but that is an impressive ass feat.
He was able to suppress his own Force sensitivity so that way people could not detect him. Mm-hmm. And this was something that was innate to himself. He had that ability. But not only that, the dark side was so powerful because of just this, like we've already talked about this, 1,000 years of the dark side building on each other, of the apprentice becoming stronger than the master to overtake the master. This has all built up to Palpatine being able to suppress all this shit from the Jedi and cloud their vision so they can't see what's going on literally right in front of them. How many times did we see the Jedi Order, Yoda even, sitting in front of Palpatine?
Literally fucking sitting.
And they have no fucking idea that Palpatine is Darth Sidious the whole time.
Which brings me to my next theory, if you will, of the fact that there is no light or dark side of the Force. But
Here
back to Qui-Gon.
So
I,
look,
I honestly think that Qui-Gon knew that he was capable of maintaining his consciousness at that time. So he was willing to die to give the motivation to Obi-Wan, which allowed Obi-Wan, because he knew Obi-Wan would be able to train him better in the aspects of what he needed to do.
You're claiming that he foresaw the future and allowed the future to take place by allowing himself to die.
Correct.
I'm telling
As
you right
did
now,
Obi-Wan
that
Kenobi
shit
on the Death Star.
That shit is groundbreaking for me. I've never heard that before. As far as I know, you're the first person to say that. Well, we're going to move on from there because I think
if you've heard a theory like that, please send it to
gatheringofbros@gmail.com.
Esk or whatever he calls himself.
You can at me at Eskuhvel, Eskuhvel on Twitter, or at gatheringofbros on Twitter.
But
I would love to hear your take on that.
Honestly, I would love to hear your take on that too, because I
think he's the first one to say so, to be honest. But if I'm wrong,
I've looked into it, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody that said it either.
Look, I keep up to date on theories and people who speculate on what's going on. I think you're the first person to presume that Qui-Gon knew exactly what was going to happen and allowed all that to happen by allowing himself to die. I think that's fucking mind-boggling, because it not only speaks to his understanding of the living force and how not only was he already working with those entities that were lived within the Force that were training him to sustain his consciousness,
which I think is the reason that he was willing to let himself die.
Great. It all makes sense.
It does.
It legitimately, if that is the truth,
I've thought about this for years,
dude. I'm telling you,
I've just never said it to anyone because I feel like people would just shit on me.
It is mind-boggling how really that makes sense within the story. But we're gonna leave that aside. We're gonna move on because technically,
but I would if you guys prove me wrong on this, I will happily admit that I'm incorrect, and I would love to hear it.
Throw out your theories, please.
Throw out your theories if you agree or disagree.
If you think there are contrary things that prove otherwise, please throw it at me. I want to know.
And I will be the first person to tell you that you are correct. And I will come back on the show, even if it's for like a half a second, and say, whoever said this, you're right. This is just something that I've thought about for a long time. If it turns out I'm wrong, I'm happy to move on and go with a better theory.
Speaking of moving on, we're going to move on to a different show because we have talked a lot about the Clone Wars and how that was established. Really, this all started with me talking about the Clone Wars and everything, and then it just kind of spiraled into craziness.
Well, Qui-Gon's death was a pivotal moment within the Clone Wars.
Sort of.
It was a precursor.
It was what led up to the Clone Wars, but then the Clone Wars series
Naboo
dealt with in the Mortis saga.
Naboo and the Trade Federation led to the Trade Federation being one of the first systems to leave the Republic,
the Separatists,
creating the Separatists.
Yes. Okay.
Their hatred, which also led to Palpatine going on.
I'm going to pull us out of this before we go into another tangent. I'm going to talk about Rebels.
I love tangents, guys.
Yes, he's the tangent king, everybody.
Somehow I always end up back to square one.
Tangent king.
If you could hashtag
I want to talk about Rebels. Did you watch Star Wars Rebels?
I'll be honest with you. I have not. Now this is hard for me to admit.
You are missing.
I know. No,
bro.
Hear me out. This is hard for
Rebels
me to admit.
Was fantastic.
But real life got in the way of my watching of Rebels.
What's stopping you now? You can binge that shit.
And I intend to, but I haven't. Dude, last time I turned on my Xbox, it told me that it needed 12 hours of updates because I hadn't turned it on in like a year and a half. And then I turned it back off.
You don't have a laptop?
It was stolen.
Jesus. You don't have any sort of computer device?
I mean, I have a cell phone. So here's the deal. I very much want to watch Rebels, and I have intentionally read up on some of the important portions of Rebels. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I've watched it just for the sake of discussion, because I refuse to confidently make statements that I don't actually believe in.
In which case, I'm going to highly recommend that you at some point visit Rebels.
I intend to. It's just like real life. So I will admit, real life, when it came out, I was just getting out of the Marine Corps, and I had to deal with some issues that I had to deal with on my own that I will not go into.
You know what? Okay, that's understandable.
Now I'm more focused on making sure I pay bills.
Life happens, okay.
I don't really watch TV anymore.
I recommend you check out Rebels. It was fantastic. It was one of those shows.
I do know that Ahsoka came back.
Yes, it was one of those shows.
I know that Vader looked a little weird in cartoon form.
Well, it's just because they used like Ralph McQuarrie inspiration when.
Now with that to wrap back to Disney's acquisition, Princess Leia is now a Disney princess.
Holy shit!
Yeah, think on that.
Damn. They missed an opportunity there where they could have included Star Wars in. If they had waited a little
got
longer,
its own Star Wars land
if
now,
they
so.
waited a little longer, they could have included Star Wars in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yep.
Which, if you know anything about Kingdom Hearts, deals with the quote unquote Disney princesses.
I think it's dumb as shit that they did not wait and include Princess Leia.
Well,
admittedly, Princess Leia is the least damsel of distress of most of the princesses.
To give y'all an update, because I know this is kind of like intermingled in everything that's going on with G.O.G, I'm still playing Kingdom Hearts.
I've never played any of the Kingdom Hearts.
I would recommend you try.
No, I'm going to, but I want to wait until the storyline's done, just like I did with Mass Effect.
Me and Bulbasip would recommend you play Kingdom Hearts because him and I are in particularly like really advocates of Kingdom Hearts. Now,
so I'm an advocate of Kingdom Hearts
too.
As well. But my thing with Kingdom Hearts is the same reason that I didn't play Mass Effect until Mass Effect 3.
Fucking Mass Effect. Don't even get me started on Mass Effect.
The reason I didn't play Mass Effect...
We literally talked about this in the last G.O.B. about my Mass Effect love.
I love Mass Effect. The reason I didn't watch Mass Effect... I didn't play Mass Effect. Thank you. The reason I didn't play Mass Effect until all 3 of them came out was because I wanted to play them as a straight, continuous run-through where every one of my actions affect the next action. And I could see it without waiting. Well, so I'm waiting until the last Kingdom Hearts, which I believe this unfortunately will be. And I'm when this is like right now.
You're expecting a 4 to come out?
No,
because they have 3 right now.
I know that, but I'm not made of fucking money.
Well, no,
I need to buy things as I can.
But this is my point: is that Mass Effect was more of a game where if you played 1. The events, like you could literally carry your save over from 1 to 2, yes, and so on and so forth. Kingdom Hearts is not that way at all.
It doesn't matter. In my mind, it is a series, and I do not play series until they're done.
Complete?
Yes.
Understood. Now, 1, 2, and 3
Which is why Dragon Age fucked me up, because I thought after Dragon Age 2, nobody would ever make a Dragon Age 2 because it sucked.
Now, here's what I will tell you. I haven't played 3 yet.
I'm a huge fan of BioWare, just so you guys know.
Oh, yeah, me too. I own Kingdom Hearts 3. I have not played it yet. I'm trying to do a thing where, okay, just give you an update.
Is Kingdom Hearts 3 on PlayStation?
You might not listen to G.O.B. So, yes, it is.
I do listen to
G.O.B. is...
Why would I not support you?
I don't know, man.
That's stupid.
So, as far as G.O.B. goes, I've been discussing...
G.O.B.
I've been discussing in the past few weeks about how I'm doing a playthrough with Kingdom Hearts.
On Twitch?
No.
You should do a Twitch playthrough.
I could, but I'm not going to. I take it very seriously when I'm like trying to complete a game 100%. So there's a lot of like going back over the same thing I've done over and over and over again, and I wouldn't want to stream that. But anyways, so Kingdom Hearts, I'm doing a completionist thing where I'm trying to go through the very first game literally all the way to the third game. So there's like multiple games that took place in between the first one and the third one. So I'm trying to do a complete playthrough. And that's where I'm at with Gathering of Bros.
You're using a lot of words, and they're not Star Wars related.
I know. I'm going to get back to it.
But I do hear what you're saying.
Don't worry. So I'm going to do that.
I just told you I haven't played it, so I'm not invested in what you're saying.
We're going to get back to Rebels. So you haven't seen Rebels. I would recommend...
No, and you know what? Admittedly, for someone that I will...
You're interested in Rebels, though.
Yes, very much so. That I will self-admit that I am... I'm not going to say a Star Wars expert, because I don't think anybody could truly be a Star Wars expert. I'll say that I'm a Star Wars enthusiast.
I'm a Star Wars expert.
He's full of shit. I'm a Star Wars enthusiast, and I have a lot of knowledge on Star Wars. The fact that I haven't seen Rebels is a sore spot in my own ego.
I'm not going to lie. As long as... If I were to join a Star Wars trivia... #Collider, because I would love to do that shit.
Also, if that's a thing, please sign me up.
If I were to do a Star Wars trivia, if they didn't include any of the like expanded universe non-canon information,
even then I'd feel comfortable.
I would rock that shit.
I would rock it outside of Rebels.
I would rock that shit. You know, Collider does a Star Wars trivia schmodown where they do like literal championships of people who know things about Star Wars, I'm confident I could do super well. So
I'm pretty comfortable with it. Now, I will say that a benefit of these discussions that we're having tonight, the reason that have these theories and I'm comfortable, I have to give a shout out to someone that I served with, Bobby Smith. He's a great guy. He's from Florida. We served together near the end of my term in the Marine Corps. So I have to give Bobby Smith a shout out. Great guy. Love that motherfucker.
motherfucker.
He doesn't play any Star Wars games, and we talk very rarely now, but he is.
When you do, it's a good conversation.
But when we do, it's typically about Star Wars.
That's awesome.
I've gotten random texts from him saying, what would you say is more powerful, this or this? Because he's arguing with someone at a bar. And I think the fact that people are arguing at bars about Star Wars, it shows exactly how our culture went from when you and I were children to getting shit on.
Horrible.
For getting shit on for being nerds.
To now it's like the cool thing.
Exactly. To the fact that I run a Dungeons and Dragons game gives me social brownie points.
Oh, fuck
which I've never would have expected. Playing D&D when I was in high school, shit on. League of Legends, shit on. The fact that I knew all this information about Star Wars in high school, middle school, elementary, shit on. Now, it's cool. And I don't necessarily know how to feel about that.
It's weird. There's been a cultural shift.
There has been a cultural shift.
Let's not touch on that, though. Let's
We're not
stay
going to
on
touch
topic.
the cultural shift. Though, at the end...
I'm going to bring us...
At the end, I would like to talk about, at some point, how Star Wars, Star Trek, the nerd culture, and just nerd culture as a whole...
And here at the Gathering of Bros channel, we do talk a lot about nerd culture.
Exactly. Has actually affected me on a personal basis.
No problem. Yeah, we can touch on that for a little bit.
I'll get a little personal. I know you guys, I've alluded to a few issues that I may have had, and I'm happy to discuss that in further detail.
That's totally fine.
If anybody's listening and they're looking for
He's
help,
pretty toasted, so he's going to just go into it. So.
I will tell you this sober, too, and I've done this before, and if I can make a TED Talk about this shit, I fucking would. But... I'd be happy to. I'm gonna go into something at the end, but we'll stick to Star Wars.
Okay, yeah. Let's hop back to Star Wars. So as far as TV series, I just want to before we move on to our next topic, I definitely want to talk about Resistance. Have you heard about it?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No.
Okay. I've seen a handful of episodes.
I've seen one.
It's a different animation style.
Not a fan.
I'm not a fan either. It's okay. Okay. It's okay.
I'll say it's okay.
I'm not a big fan.
You know what else is okay? Fucking LaCroix. LaCroix is water from a location where flavor's been outlawed.
You mean that sparkling liquid gold?
Yeah, I might as well drink, what's that, fucking Blue Claw or whatever that bullshit's called nowadays.
Or Propel.
Propel. Actually, I did like Propel. Propel was my shit back in my swim meet
Propel
days.
or Gatorade?
Propel,
for sure. Propel was like so different. It was like, oh shit, Propel.
I liked it because it was different.
Someone would be like, hey, I got Propel and water. What you want? You got fucking Propel?
Give me that shit.
Give me that shit. Let me get shit right now.
So yeah, Resistance is all right.
It's the Propel of Star Wars.
It's the Propel of the Star Wars. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it's the LaCroix of Star Wars, but it's the Propel of Star Wars.
I've watched it. Okay, let us take back to Propel. But if they got Gatorade over Propel,
I'd fuck with some Gatorade.
You're fucking with some Gatorade.
Yeah, especially the
Rebels and Clone Wars are the Gatorade, and then Resistance is the Propel. You're gonna take the Gatorade first.
Now, which
Clone
Gatorade? Wars? Which Clone Wars?
What do you mean, which Clone? There's only one Clone Wars.
No, there was 2 Clone Wars animation styles.
Okay, the only Clone Wars that matters.
Ooh. I like the original.
The original style. Clone Wars was dope, but is it canon? No.
True.
That Clone Wars.
Now that animation style I did like more.
Was pretty dope. Not gonna lie, but there was
it was like animated comic.
It's the first time we were introduced to Grievous. First time we were introduced to Ventress.
Which is why when I watched episode 3, I wasn't like, oh shit.
You knew who Grievous was.
Grievous is here. What the fuck?
Isn't that dope?
Why is there a battle over Coruscant? What is even happening? But no one understood that.
So we're gonna leave TV series. We're gonna go into a little bit of video games before we touch on episode 9 because that's kind of like the coup de grace.
I'd like to say this, and he's not allowed to edit this out. This is great because I haven't been able to have a discussion of this caliber regarding Star Wars, my theories, my thoughts, in, well, I'll be honest, since Esk and I were in fucking middle school.
Yes.
I think that's the last time I've had a discussion of this caliber outside of Bobby Smith in the Marine Corps. And even then, it was mostly just us arguing multiple sides and me gaining more knowledge.
And I appreciate you saying that.
Like, this I would highly recommend, if these types of discussions are what the
Gathering of Guests
truly is. Thank you for telling me the name, because I already forgot because I'm drunk. If that's what this is something that a lot of people could regularly listen to, input, give questions in a live stream, and have those questions answered by people that consider themselves as experts. Like I said, I don't consider myself an expert, but an enthusiast.
But you do have a lot of
But
knowledge.
I do have a lot of knowledge on,
which is why we're
Star
having
Wars,
you on Gathering
which
Guests in the
admittedly,
first place.
I wish I could transfer that knowledge to some real life stuff, because I'd probably make a lot more money. But let's get back to it.
Yeah, so
He's not allowed to edit that.
We're going to dive into a little video games before we hop into the movies themselves of what's going on right now. So video games for Star Wars have come a long way. Now, we are...
And gone down.
I want to think about a little bit about some of the better games that have come out that really have made an impact on our lives.
KOTOR?
Coda, for one, okay? That story, for one, is not only relevant today because they're thinking about making, as far as we've known, as far as reports go, they're thinking about making in the next sort of saga.
Correct.
But it was just a good story. It was one of the best stories in video games that I've ever encountered.
The twist at the end of that
So
story
good.
fucked me up as a child.
I did not see that shit coming.
No.
I remember when I learned, I was like,
fuck me, I'm Revan, bitch?
no,
Like,
okay, don't give it away.
too late.
So,
if you haven't
shit.
played KOTOR, y'all done fucked up already.
It's amazing. That story is fantastic. I recommend you guys somehow encounter it. It's
available on your phone.
It's available on iOS.
It costs like half. It costs
So
like
look,
a third,
I
like
purchased-
an eighth of the cost it cost when we bought it
I
originally.
went on a Star Wars coder binge maybe 3 months ago. I bought every omnibus of
Jesus.
Star Wars coder. Knights of the Old
That
Republic.
word's too similar to what I do for a living.
So
Get that word out of
I
here.
know it's fucking horrible. So omnibus. I purchased every volume of omnibus for the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic series, which tells
Edit all the
it's
way to that
essentially
moment and then
it's a
start again.
prequel to Coder, the game. It talks about everything that led up to it. About you're introduced to Malak before he becomes Darth Malak, where he's Alec, and kind of like what really drove him to become the man who he would become as a Darth, and
Well, some might argue
it was
that
fantastic.
he became more beast than
man.
man.
Get the fuck out of here. It was a great saga. I loved it. It was a very good saga, which led me into. I watched it. I'm sorry. I read it all. Okay, it was a comic. I read it all and was like, I need more. So I downloaded Coder on iOS, and I got this thing called the Game Vice, which turns your iPhone into a fucking handheld.
Yep.
Fantastic. Played all of Coder on my iOS. Love that shit.
Love it.
It's fantastic. Highly recommend you play.
You know what else I'd recommend? You know what else I'd recommend? And this will give you a wonderful insight into the Jedi Order, the Sith Order, the Imperial Military, the original trilogy, and the Mandalorian bounty hunters. They're physical. There are books that actually discuss the Jedi Order, the Sith Order, the Imperial Military, and bounty hunters. You can also get a special edition. I'm not making any money from this, so I'd like to clarify that I'm not like trying to plug this to make money.
Not the first time we've said that. It's okay.
I'm making zero money from this. I actually spent money on this.
He's just a fan.
I bought a Sith holocron. You press the button, it fucking makes noise. It lights up. It pops open, and a Sith, the book of the Sith Order slides out, and it actually has a red kyber crystal. and it has notes from Palpatine inside of it. Dude, it is great.
Fantastic.
I also bought the Imperial Order, but it gives you some insight into how the crystals are made. The red is not a red crystal is not actually a naturally growing Sith crystal.
It's not, no. At least from what we've learned in new canon.
What is canon shows that red is not.
It's bleeding a crystal makes it red.
It's a bleeding synthetic crystal.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't call it synthetic because they're kind of steering away from that. It's more like you take a crystal.
They are now.
A kyber crystal. You pour the dark side into it, and it turns it red.
And it bleeds out the other colors.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the Old Republic, they actually have cores. So you have your kyber crystal, but you could also have a black cord crystal.
Yeah, old canon.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff with kyber crystals and lightsabers in general from the old canon that I wish would have applied. But you know what?
You could also play Force Unleashed and learn a lot about crystals.
Yes, for real. So we're going to take a step back. We're going to go back.
We're going back to video games. Force Unleashed.
The Force Unleashed was
highly
fantastic.
recommend. Too short. But highly recommend.
We've already talked about it a little bit in the show so far. It was a really good game.
We're not going to get into the Force Unleashed or KOTOR.
The story of Galen Merrick was fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Rom Koda being the blind sort of Jedi master that taught Galen Merrick, which has, dude, if you liked, you liked The Force Unleashed.
Of course I did.
You need to watch Star Wars Rebels.
Bro, I said I will.
Star Wars Rebels.
Look, it already hurts my ego enough, the fact that I don't know everything.
Listen, Star Wars Rebels is The Force Unleashed. It's just canon now. I'm telling you right now, check out The Force Unleashed if you haven't checked it out. It's freaking fantastic.
Correct. The second one is also good. I'm not going to say fantastic. I'm going to say it's good.
I thought visually
fantastic. Storyline too short and okay.
The Black Series figure that I created, I made a custom Black Series figure of Galen Merrick, Starkiller, and it was
the Force with the claws.
The Force Unleashed 2. No. It was the one where. So you remember in the beginning when he's in like the arena?
Yeah.
That's the costume I did.
Oh, that's a good one.
It was fantastic. I had it painted by a buddy of mine. And it came out so
He's probably a nerd.
Well, he's a big Star Wars fan.
We're all nerds.
He's pretty dope, actually. He's from Oakland, California, but he lives over in West Virginia now.
Ew.
So, I mean, that's where he lives now. This is what it is. But
I'm just kidding. It's not
He did a great job painting it. I will post it in the Discord. Keep an eye out for that. It's fantastic. Starkiller. I made it. It's called a kit bash. It's where you take a bunch of parts from different action figures, you mesh them together to the best of your ability, and it comes out fantastic.
Yeah.
I made it with my own two hands. I literally almost separated my thumb from my hand.
He's very accident prone.
In the process of doing it.
I've known him for decades.
How many times did I cut myself in Boy Scouts?
Oh my God.
So many times. Well, this was intense because I was doing a lot of fine detailed work. And I literally had an X-Acto knife and sliced off almost the entire. It was crazy. My thumb almost separated from my hand.
That's great.
But
remember the time I stuck my stupid thumb into a fucking air blower?
I lost a lot of feeling in my finger, but in my thumb.
Dude, that's what happened to me. I lost a portion of my thumb too.
There's a good portion of my thumb I can't feel anymore. But
that's great.
It was worth it because the Starkiller came out fantastic. I will post pictures in our Discord for you guys. It was really awesome.
That's great.
So, moving on.
So from Force Unleashed.
I want to take us back a little bit further to another game that I really feel they need to bring back. Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
Correct.
Dude.
Jesus.
How many times have you thought, like, I would need a good ship game? A good space battle.
Yep.
Something where I'm driving a ship, or flying a ship, excuse me.
Did you ever play Star Wars Starfighter?
No.
So I want to say it was Star Wars Starfighter. Dude, I'm checking right now to make sure that it's the right
literally
name.
have Rogue Squadron in my N64 now.
Rogue Squadron 1 and 2 were good.
I haven't played
1
2.
was better.
I never played 2.
But was
2 on the N64? Or was it on GameCube?
GameCube.
See, I never had a GameCube, so I never played it. And we've already discussed that on G.O.G shows. I totally missed out.
But you didn't have a GameCube?
I went from N64 all the way to Nintendo Switch thanks to Leo Veritas and Bulbasaur. They literally gifted me one this year for my birthday.
Dude, Star Wars Bounty Hunter was a GameCube exclusive. That was really good.
Was it really?
Yeah. I liked it.
Wow, that's interesting.
Once again, I'm always a big fan of anything that gets away from the Skywalker line.
And again, I want to
Which is
point
why
out
I like Star Wars.
that's where we're going from here on out, because this is the episode 9 is the end of the Star Wars saga. Before we jump into that,
Skywalker saga.
I want to talk a little bit about how.
No, we're still talking about video games.
We are, yeah.
1313. Before we move past video games.
Well, we're way past video games, but yeah, let's
1313,
talk
it's
about
bullshit.
1313.
It's bullshit that it didn't happen.
I agree.
1313 looked like
good.
a gorgeous game that finally gave me the freedom that I wanted. And I've said this multiple times, and let's move past 1313, I guess, for a half a second.
Well, you know what it looked like? It looked a lot like Mass Effect, but
yes,
but Star Wars.
yes, which I want. I want
Hardcore,
that.
me too. Yeah.
If you can give me, there's a game called Rebel Galaxy. It's not one of my favorite games, but I like the fact of like it's open world, freedom of movement. If you can give me, and I can care less if it's Star Trek or Star Wars, just give me one of them. A game that is like that, where I can upgrade my ships within that universe. I could live a storyline within that universe. Weapons, trading, whatever lifestyle I want to go with, outside of being a fucking Jedi or a Sith. Because God forbid I live my life without a laser sword. I would love it. Give me something like that, this open world version of that, which I felt like, even though it wasn't in ships, but it would have been in person. I felt like 1313 was that.
It was a beautiful game. I like the idea of visiting Coruscant more in depth, especially
Coruscant's underworld.
the lower levels. That's what everyone was most interested in.
Yeah, you only ever see the politicians,
The upper city polished, everything's amazing.
I mean, the dirtiest thing we've ever seen in any canon Star Wars anything was Dex's Diner.
I wanted to see the underworld. I wanted to see an area of Coruscant where the Jedi rarely went because it was so dangerous.
And probably didn't go at all because it was beneath them.
Where bounty hunters thrived because there was always somebody who wanted somebody else dead. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really wanted to see that. Really,
I wanted
bad.
to see that.
And
I wanted to fight my way through it.
It's unfortunate that kind of fell by the wayside. A big part of the acquisition of Disney, one of the things that kind of like died, as well as, you know, Clone Wars in the final season, which thank God we're getting again, because they finally realized that there's a huge backing for that series.
There's also a huge gap in
that they needed to fill
timeline.
in. Yeah, well, they filled a lot in with books, unfortunately, and you know, like people just don't read the books, unfortunately. I'd like to read up on the books as far as like, you know, updates. Like if somebody's going to summarize a book, I'll do that. But unless it's like one that I'm really invested in, I won't really read too much anymore. Like I did before when there was Extended Universe when I was younger. But I will say that I'm definitely interested in seeing like where the canon is going from here on out, as far as like what they're going to dive more deeper into.
Agreed. I don't know what you want me to say here. Everything you said was exactly what I've been saying.
What were we talking about? I spaced out, bro.
Clearly.
Because you made me stop mid-thought to listen to like what's going on.
No, dude, I live in a home where I need to make sure that I'm safe. I'm sorry. I heard thumping. I wanted to make sure that the thumping wasn't somebody trying to do some bullshit.
What were we talking about? Oh, 1313. I'm definitely excited that they're making this new game, Jedi Fallen Order, because it looks like it's kind of being made in the same style as 1313.
If you look at Jedi Fallen Order, and you didn't know about it, but the Jedi Academy, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, I don't remember what it was called. I've drank too much to figure it out. But it's the one that I was talking about before with like, with not Kylo Ren, fucking Kyle Katarn. with Kyle Katarn and the new Jedi Order type, it seems very similar to that, but now canon. Where you were part of a Jedi Order, you have your powers, you're trying to survive in this world where the Order has fallen type of situation.
So yes,
and I'm hopeful that as you develop your Force powers in this game, as you did in the Jedi Academy or Jedi Knight or whatever it was called, you are able to develop then in a way that you choose.
My problem
because there was a development that you were able to cure yourself, or you could do Force Lightning or Force Choke, whatever it may be.
Here's the thing about Jedi Fallen Order. I have a huge problem with diving. I have a huge problem in. Oh gosh, how do I phrase this? I have a huge problem with diving into an area that's already really been explained away. So there shouldn't be any Jedi that exist really within this time period.
See, I disagree. I mean, I understand that the Jedi Order, not Jedi Order, but the Jedi Academy that Luke had created on...
No, this is even before that. You know when this game takes place is during the Empire, right?
Oh. Huh?
Yeah.
My understanding, I must have read that wrong.
Saul Guerrera is in the trailer.
Oh, Jesus.
So this is during the time...
This is Rogue One time.
This is in Rogue One time. So there's another... You know, you haven't watched Rebels yet, but Rebels, there's 2 Jedi, not including Ahsoka.
I know there's one that's a Mandalorian, there's Ahsoka, and then there's another one. Isn't the Mandalorian a Jedi?
Not really, but sort of.
He has the lightsaber.
She has a lightsaber that's the dark saber. You remember the dark saber that Maul had in Clone Wars? Mm-hmm. Well, that was a Mandalorian lightsaber.
Yes.
And it's kind of passed on to signify leader. So there is a Mandalorian.
So he's the Mandalore.
She.
God damn it!
Sort of. It's complicated. You just need to watch it. But
yeah, I'll just watch it.
Having a lightsaber doesn't always make you a Jedi. You know what I mean? So what I will say
anybody can learn how to use the lightsaber.
I think you just need to watch it. Exactly, especially Mandalorian, who's like super trained in close quarters combat. But
now a Mandalorian using a lightsaber is realistic.
Yeah, but this is all besides the point.
And there's also multiple light weapons.
This is my point. So you definitely need to watch Rebels. But honestly, what I'm really getting at is that this era that Jedi Fallen Order is dealing with is an era where we've already had the story fleshed out, where it's post Order 66. If there's any Jedi even left, they're in hiding because they're like fearing for their lives. And
we do know that Jedi survived. I mean, not many, but a few.
But that's the whole presence of the Inquisitors went after those Jedi. Vader went after those Jedi, and they were either too scared to do anything, or were killed. Yeah. So I don't like having more and more instances where we're getting more Jedi being revealed to be active during this time, especially that this is leading up to Luke Skywalker and his impact on the galaxy.
Admittedly, and I agree. I had hoped that the Fallen Order was going to be about the fallen Jedi Order that Luke had tried to reestablish.
That probably would have been better.
That I think would have been more realistic. A Padawan on the run, if you will. A Jedi Padawan that survived through Kylo Ren's assault when he burned the temple and tried to kill Luke. I think that would have been more realistic. But having so many Jedi that...
Well, it's just like I said in Rebels.
Made it through that time period, it doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah, it's like starting to bother me to the point of look, can't we just not focus on this freaking period of time? Can we focus on another period of time? Why do we have to keep going back to the era between Episode 3 and Episode 4?
Exactly.
It's driving me nuts.
Honestly, all I think that was needed for that era would be Rebels. Rogue One. And that's it.
Well, I will also say that...
And Rogue One was most assuredly used as a movie to fulfill the gap of... Why would the Empire leave an exhaust port open that leads to the Star Destroyer?
Honestly, that was the question of all questions. So,
and it makes sense that now it's done.
Yeah, and I will say that, there is definitely a story to be told about the time where... the Republic was gone, the Empire had taken over, and that there was just oppression. Like, how did people respond to that? How did the rebel cells become the rebellion? How did they unite? And that's
outside of the Skywalkers.
Yes, and that's
as I'm sure you've noticed, is
pre-Skywalkers, and that's what Star Wars Rebels. Around. That's what Star Wars Rebels does, though. Star Wars Rebels tells us about essentially how, because by the time we hit Episode 4 and Luke Skywalker's on Tatooine, the rebellion already exists. There's deleted scenes of Biggs when he goes back to Tatooine and he's like, I'm in the rebellion, Luke.
Big Starlighter is pretty cool.
He really is.
And the fact that he got cut out, I think, is kind of dumb because...
I think it's dope that he was who he was.
Yeah.
And he had an impact on Luke. But I'm a little disappointed in the fact that he was pulled from... Luke's life so quickly, and like they had established him to be like this influence on Luke,
like a mentor, if you will.
Mentor, so to speak, who had kind of like maybe like mentioned to him in a deleted scene that he was joining the rebellion, which kind of like planted the seed for Luke in the first place.
Because it didn't necessarily flow in the fact that Luke was just like, oh no, my aunt died. These are super stormtrooper shots. But they can't hit anything else.
Oh yeah, it's beside the point.
No!
But what's interesting is like Luke,
which I still think the stormtroopers missed on purpose to make sure the tracking beacon got away.
Whatever, man. Luke mentions that he wants to join. He wants to leave his uncle's farm, and he wants to join the flight academy, which is
the Imperial
Flight Academy.
He wanted to be, essentially, he was going to be a TIE fighter.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or maybe a TIE Interceptor. Doesn't matter. It was going to be an Imperial fighter.
That's what Biggs did, though.
Yep.
And it would have made more sense if we would have learned that that's what Biggs did. But then Biggs comes back and tells him, like, Luke, like, I'm going to join the rebellion now. And that would have led to, like, a more deeper understanding of why Luke did what he did because he had an influence. But unfortunately, they got cut. And I think that would have showed us a more rebellion backstory to Luke Skywalker, and let's tie this all back. So like the rebellion, like we got to see through Rebels how the rebellion was formed. We got to see how Luke Skywalker eventually would become tied with that rebellion. We got to see in Star Wars Rebels how there were 2 Jedi who were involved heavily with the beginnings of the Rebels. And I just feel like every time we start dipping deeper into how there was a Jedi involved, it lessens what Luke was. And it's driving me nuts. So, am I excited for Jedi Fallen Order? Yes. Am I hoping that the story is not completely disappointing to me? Because they keep hammering us with, there were actually Jedi during this period between Episode 3 and Episode 4? Yes. Please, don't ruin this for me. Please, Lucasfilm. Please, EA. Please, Disney. I want to enjoy this game. Don't make it something where I regret playing it because you're trying to hammer into me. There was this other Jedi completely unrelated to Luke Skywalker or to Kanan Jarrus or to freaking Kanan Jarrus or Ezra Bridger or Ahsoka or any other Jedi they've already introduced to us during this period of time. I don't want them to ruin, I don't want them to ruin this era by further introducing even more Jedi that were supposed to be supposedly involved prior to Luke Skywalker taking place and his adventure taking place in Episode 4. I'm tired of it. I don't want it to go on.
And like I said, I agree with that completely because if we do that, we're looking at the fact that why is the rebellion so like, oh my God, it's a Jedi, they're so special. like they should have been destroyed so long ago. If every other fucking month a new Jedi
There's
showed
a new
up
Jedi
to help with
that's
the order.
involved, yeah.
It's too many Jedi. You're saturating the market, if you will.
Pretty much, yeah. Saul Guerrero is now being introduced to a whole other Jedi besides Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger.
I like Saul Guerrero. I like the whole, like, I'm a rebellion, but I went too far style. You didn't get that vibe?
Oh, I totally got that vibe, and it makes sense that you would be like attracted to that too, because it's like you do what you have to do.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
it's
like the ends justify the means type.
Yeah, it's very Machiavellian, and Saul Guerrero is very Machiavellian, and you could see by the people that support him as well as himself, they're all missing fucking limbs
because they do what they have to
do. Because the ends justify the means. They do what they have to do.
Yep.
It's one of those things. I like that they introduced that because once again,
it makes sense.
It
that
shows a realism.
Yes,
exactly.
Realism. Yeah.
You're going to tell me that everybody in this rebellion across an entire fucking galaxy just agreed to this one dogma? That's bullshit.
It makes sense that there was a portion
there are
of
splinter
the rebels.
cells.
Yeah.
Everybody are splinter cells. And then all of a sudden you have one cell that goes rogue.
I think
that doesn't surprise me.
I think you're gonna really like Rebels once you watch it because it really dives.
I know I will.
It dives into the fact that look, at first there was rebellion splinter cells on
everywhere,
every planet, everywhere.
They had to be connected.
Somewhere along the line, they started communicating with each other and realizing like, oh wow, there's more of us. And then they started getting in touch and planning attacks out together. And then they became essentially the rebellion. But there was a portion of them that was like, look, we can't pussyfoot around here. We got to get shit done. Like, if it means we got to go and, like, kill some people to stop the freaking Empire, we got to do it.
And that's why I liked Rogue One. Because it showed...
Dude, you're going to love Rebels.
Dude, I know I will. That's why I really liked Rogue One. Because Rogue One showed...
a new side.
Legitimate operatives working in a fascist state.
It started... Think about how it started.
That's what I'm saying. Look how it started.
It started...
He straight up shot a dude in the back alley.
He shot... Not any dude. He shot a rebel soldier. A rebel spy. Mm-hmm. To save himself.
Exactly.
For the sake of the rebellion.
Exactly.
That is some dark shit, man.
Now that is one of those that is realism in its finest. And when we
that had to have been happening a lot
exactly.
in the rebellion.
And that's the part that we put this rebellion on the pedestal. And we look at it, the rebellion essentially now and I know this isn't going to go well with probably a portion of your listeners. But as a standing point, the Empire at this point has become a legitimate government. Now, they may be fucking assholes, but it has become the government of the galaxy.
Yes.
Thus making the rebellion a terrorist organization.
But sometimes when a government is unjust, doesn't that make a rebellion or insurgency valid?
Now, I'm not going to argue the validity of the situation.
I mean, he is a dark side guy, remember, everybody.
No. That said, I'm not going to argue validity. I'm not going to argue...
Dude, they built a fucking Death Star to destroy planets if anybody...
bitch, if I could afford one, I'd build it now. But here's my thing. The validity of who is right and who is wrong becomes an inherent moral argument. Is it right to do wrong to do right? Or is it wrong to do right to do wrong?
Bitch, this ain't philosophy.
But that's where you're wrong. The entirety of Star Wars is essentially a giant philosophy lesson.
You're right. But this show ain't philosophy. This isn't where we're going to discuss
Bitch, we're talking about Star Wars. It is philosophy.
Oh, yeah, but I'm not trying to get into that discussion. That's a little too heavy. If you have any questions or comments on that regard, please hit us up at gatheringbros@gmail.com. Feel free to send us a rant if you want about that. I'm sure Craxiss would love to hear it.
Don't hit me up because I don't have a Twitter. And...
no, but you can hit up G.O.G.
My
and
Facebook
let us
is
know,
private.
And we'll relay information to Craxiss.
My Facebook is private. My Instagram is private. My life is private. And I just basically give opinions
now
and be an asshole.
Now that we're fully inebriated, we're going to discuss episode 9.
He is not me.
We're going to talk about... I'm pretty wrecked right now. Yeah.
I'm
I want to know what your thoughts are as of right now after episode 7 and 8, The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens have been released. Where are you at with it? Are you optimistic? Are you satisfied with where we are as of right now with the saga? Especially being that episode 9 is quote-unquote the end of the Skywalker saga.
Well, I'm optimistic about the fact that it's the end of the Skywalker saga.
Because you want other things.
I think I've made it pretty clear so far based on what we've discussed.
Yes.
That there is so much more in this universe, this world, this galaxy, whatever the fuck you want to call it, than just the Skywalkers.
Yes, understood.
And I'm super excited to see what outside of the Skywalkers we can delve into, which is why I'm excited for the Old Republic. Because there were no Skywalkers as far as I know. The earliest Skywalker I could think of is Anakin and Shmi.
They were the first.
They were the first as far as I know. I'm sure Shmi had parents because that's how...
Now, Skywalker, because of the prophecy,
but
was prophesied prior to that, but we haven't really gone into that as far as...
I'm not going to argue who was supposedly the chosen one or not, but I still say it was Anakin.
It was for sure Anakin.
Yeah.
He's the one that threw the Emperor down the shaft, but, you know... Yeah.
Well, my whole thing with Anakin is how many Sith were there at the end of that, and how many Jedi were there at the end of that? Known. There was Yoda and Obi-Wan, 2. Anakin and Palpatine, 2. It was evened. Now, admittedly, not in the way that people would have liked, but it was evened in the sense of known Jedi.
I mean, there was balance, but at the same time, you have to accommodate for the fact that over 1,000 years, there was only 2 Sith, and there was all those other Jedi. Why did it take that long to achieve balance?
Because it took that long for them to kill them off in a proper way.
Oh, that's really hard for me to
It's
accept.
dark. It's dark, but...
Besides the darkness of the whole matter because of Order 66... It's
Which,
still hard for
God,
me
I love Order 66.
understand the reasoning away for it because Bane started with the annihilation of the Sith. He literally killed, like, dude was a badass. Dude killed all of the Sith, right? Does his rule of 2, institutes it, kills them all, gets his apprentice. While he has his apprentice, then he acquires the armor, the parasitic armor that enhances his force power at the expense of his own life. And it's only way after that point that his apprentice isn't living up to his expectations. So he gets another apprentice. So his original apprentice is like, well, fuck this bitch. And decides that she's going to overthrow her master, take his new apprentice as her apprentice. He does that.
Now, I read those books, and when I read them, the way I took it was that she failed.
Initially, she did. You mean when she fought him?
Mm-hmm.
Because he tried to do his transfer essence type shit, okay? And although
I think he succeeded.
Sort of worked.
I think he succeeded.
It didn't succeed completely, but there was a piece of Bane left within her.
I believe.
Again, this is like you probably
super non-canon, and you probably haven't even read this.
If you haven't read this book, you're like, what in the hell are they talking about? Well, I'm telling you right now, it's pretty dope.
This is us spiraling so deep.
Hard, dude. We are spiraling hard. But there is a series of books that deal with Darth Bane that I honestly think need to be made into a series.
Which now I think it'd be a great TV series.
Fantastic series, especially
with
him being in the Sith.
You've seen Generation Kill, right?
Oh yeah.
Generation Kill was like one of my favorite representations of the Marine Corps and like what life like was.
It was dope.
Was for us as Marines in like
y'all would have
Afghanistan,
probably no
Iraq.
idea though, to be honest.
Generation Kill, that mini series of like 10 episodes.
Take a second to describe what Generation Kill is to the audience.
Generation Kill was taking actual Marines as well as actors portraying Marines into, it was an HBO series that actually had the budget to portray the Marine Corps as realistic as they could, in the sense of depravity, mental health, and I'm going to go with realism of what warfare is like in another country.
Both during and after the fact.
Both during and after the fact. Majority during, all the way through the fact of, there was a Rolling Stones article about recon Marines during the initial push. And
how is this relevant to Star Wars?
It's relevant to Star Wars in the sense that if there was a budget that showed a realism and an aspect of what it's like in the galaxy as somebody who went from... And Bane was not a Sith at the start. Bane was a squad leader.
He was, yes.
Starting from there and showing the realism and growth, like a gritty representation that, like how the Solo movie did during the battle where Han Solo met Chewbacca.
Mm-hmm. That's actually really good.
That is a realistic...
He was a grunt.
Exactly.
That ended up, like, lo and behold, he's becoming part of the Sith Empire, and through complete chance and the will of the Force, becomes the ultimate Sith that
creates the way of life for all Sith
for over
literally
1,000 years.
The rest of eternity.
Yeah, well, no, I don't know about the rest of eternity, but over 1,000 years.
Not canon-wise, yes.
Yeah.
Non-canon, Grey Knights and shit. But that...
He came from nothing. He
came from nothing.
Of being,
he was
a beginning.
He was a guy that enlisted in the Sith Empire because he had no other fucking prospects.
Yep, pretty much.
It's the same shit.
It does reminisce a lot of Han Solo.
And it does. And the way Han Solo, when he met Chewbacca, he was a grunt in the fucking front lines in this swamp-filled planet.
We need to see this in a series. We really do.
That realism is so important, and I feel like that realism will truly resonate with individuals that grew up with Star Wars and then lived through, and I hate to get real world, but lived through these real world conflicts, wars, military stuff, the violence in our cities in general.
Yeah. Well,
that is something that as people, as humans, we could resonate with and show that real grittiness instead of making it instead of trying to make it a far-fetched fantasy,
an unrealistic
situation, showing the warfare. I mean, we always talk about,
how it relates and ties back to our real
how it
world.
ties back to our real world, and
defense,
that's so important.
In your defense, not only do you have like realistic experiences that really tie back to a lot of what influences Star Wars, because yes, Star Wars is, believe it or not, heavily influenced by real world experiences.
People just don't see it.
The freaking Empire is the Nazi regime. Like,
well, that just makes me feel like an asshole for liking the Empire.
Because it is what it is, man. I mean, you're either dark side or you're light side, bro. But
dark side for life.
I'm telling you right now that there are real life influences in what George Lucas's Star Wars became. And I'm telling you right now that it's very visible, and it's like even today, way beyond past where the Nazis were, even the Russians, and where they stood, like you could still see a lot of what our current world is in Star Wars.
Look at just the most recent movie, Last Jedi. The casino planet.
Yeah.
Where there are individuals that are making money from both sides of the war.
From both sides.
That is such a pointed...
The Canto Bite.
Exactly. Canto Bite.
What did you think?
It is what I thought was that it was a pointed example.
Did you think it was pointless?
No.
It had... Thank you. Thank you so much. It had a point.
The point was...
A relevant point.
In this galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, and we can call it a universe, people live their lives without even knowing about the Force. People have gone their entire lives thinking the Force is just some religious mumbo-jumbo. But at the same time, why would you not sell to both sides of the war?
It makes sense.
Why would you not try and make money?
I think it adds to the story.
The entirety of Cantabite just shows the fact that regardless of what side you ideologically stand on
whether
and
it's
agree
Sith
with,
or Jedi,
regardless,
light or dark,
I can give a fuck
rebellion
what
or
light,
empire.
dark, rebellion, empire, new order, resistance. It doesn't matter. There will always be someone that is doing their absolute best
who's benefiting
to
from
make
both sides.
money.
Yes.
The same part that fixed the TIE Fighter is the same part that was
fixed
used the X-Wing.
Yep.
And that was the most realistic statement in any Star Wars movie that I've ever seen.
And it was relevant because not...
And it was relevant not only to
let's
Star Wars, but relevant to the real world. That is real life.
It's a realistic
and that is
concept that has been applied into Star Wars because it is totally relevant.
Because that why would you think that something that happens in our world right now would not happen on a grander scale in a galaxy
far away
where there's thousands of planets with intelligent life?
Now, and this is why I stand by why the Canto Bite. A lot of people had a big problem with the Canto Bite.
I had a problem with the horses; they were dumb.
There was a big aspect of the Canto Bite where yes, it could have been left out.
The only issue I had with that movie was when Rose kissed Finn.
Honestly, that's pretty... Yeah, the only thing I had.
And that's because I was like, wait, what?
That and I wasn't sure
I feel like there was no real build-up.
I wasn't sure why Luke had to die.
I'm still not sure why Luke died.
I mean...
Luke made a force illusion?
It's more like this. It's more like this. Let me
projection?
Let me put it this way, because we're going to put this to bed. We're kind of dealing with the movies anyways. Luke was separated from the Force.
Correct.
And because of that, he was not... It's like a muscle, right? What happens when you don't use a muscle for a long time? It atrophies, right? In the same way, it's the Force. He went a really long time without even acknowledging that he had that muscle. He was just... He was so irate with it after everything that happened. He was like, fuck this muscle. I don't need it anymore. I'm not going to use it. And he didn't use it. Mm-hmm. So... all of a sudden, shit goes down. Rey comes, asks him for help. So what does he do? All of a sudden, he's like, oh, I better get back into this shit. Starts using the muscle that has atrophied. Not only does he use the muscle, he pushes it to the absolute limit where he's projecting himself across the galaxy.
Now, exactly. I don't know how far those two planets are apart. But I'll be honest,
bro.
I can give a fuck if that's from the planet to the moon. You can do that with the Force. That's rough.
It's rough, bro. And it was really far.
I mean, how hard do you think it was for Leia to use the Force to fucking pull herself back into a ship?
It was pretty hard, yeah. But this dude is sitting there literally... He's using muscles he hasn't used for a long time. Of course, by the time he's done pushing himself to the absolute limit, he's going to be so, like done, so spent that he might possibly die from it.
I get dying. How'd you just disappear like
Obi-Wan?
Because I highly doubt Obi-Wan taught you how to do that.
Episode 9, we're talking about the end of the Skywalker saga, a saga that's been in the making since the very first episode 4, A New Hope, the very first Star Wars movie that ever was released. What are your thoughts on this movie? Are you optimistic from the teaser that we saw?
I'm actually concerned from the teaser.
How so?
For the same reason you don't like the expanded universe.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that.
Remember your statements about the Palpatine clones?
Yes.
Did you not hear
Laugh
Palpatine's
at the end of the
trailer?
Yes, I did.
My concern is that this is going to delve into a Palpatine clone situation. And I don't think... Now, as much as I enjoyed, and I did enjoy, the Palpatine clones of the expanded universe, I do not think they fit into the New Order style of these movies.
Here's the thing. We could receive that Palpatine presence in a lot of different ways. It's my personal belief, based on what we've seen so far, if you think back to Battlefront 2 and the campaign, and how we had a hologram of his final orders that instituted Project Cinder, right? Which basically said, let's burn it all. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
It's a scorched earth policy that the Russians did.
And I think what we're going to see is something in line with that, where Palpatine had left like some sort of final message. And I think what's going to happen is I think Rey and company are going to encounter the Death Star and where it's fallen, not on Endor, but on, because remember, Endor was the moon. I think they're going to find it on another related.
Well, it was the third moon of Endor.
Okay, whatever. They might go on another moon or on Endor itself. That's where they find the Death Star remains. They're going to go in there and find some sort of recording that detailed information about what Palpatine's plans were in the Outer Rim in particular, because that's where the First Order went, remember? The Empire fell, and Palpatine's orders were, take my Empire into the Outer Rim.
See, there really hasn't been any definitive understanding of how the First Order rose.
That's true. We know...
Because is it Imperial
books,
remnant?
We know from some books that the what was left of the Empire packed up everything that they had, and they
went to the Outer Rim.
And they fled into the Outer Rim, where Palpatine was said to had declared that there was some sort of dark power,
correct,
dark side entity that was the source of what his strength was.
Which I would personally. I mean, I know it's not canon anymore, but once again, I would assume would be Drummond, Koss, or Korriban. Both of those locations are in the Outer Rim.
It's really hard to say, man.
I know, of course it is. And we have no information to give us any pathway to the correct location.
But in regards to what Palpatine's presence in this next movie is going to be, I think that's what it's going to be. I think they're going to investigate some sort of thing that they're trying to look into on the Death Star. They're brought back to Endor.
And I think that's dumb.
And why is that dumb?
I think that's a waste.
Of what? Of Palpatine?
I don't think Palpatine's clone should be involved. I don't think
his likeness.
I don't think Palpatine's likeness. I don't think Palpatine's fucking last will and testament.
I don't think it's more of. I think
should be involved. I think the fact of the matter is, this new trilogy has so many parallels to the original as a fan service that if you don't give it some originality, it's going to be.
I think it has enough originality.
It does have a good amount of originality, but if it ends up tying back to Palpatine or Vader, or
you don't think that would tie everything together finally?
No.
That everything.
I think that it would ruin the fact that the First Order is its own thing.
It would ruin everything.
I don't know why the First Order is even around.
The First Order is the remnant of Palpatine's final wishes.
How?
We're going to find that out.
And I don't think it.
I think Palpatine,
and I don't think it should.
I think Palpatine had a very detailed plan about what he was going to do when he was still alive. I think up until the point that he died, he thought he was going to eliminate the rebellion successfully, which he ended up not doing.
Every dictator does.
He thought after he was going to eliminate the rebellion, he was going to go into the Outer Rim, find whatever was the source of his dark side power, and he was going to become even more powerful. And he had established this.
You're going to tell me Palpatine, in all the years that he'd been planning this, in all the years he'd been doing his stuff, in all the years that he spent building up the Empire, didn't go to the Outer Rim and try and find the source of his power? He had his own inherent power. This source in the Outer Rim was not his source of power. The Force is his source of power. Holocrons only give you so much information.
So what you're thinking, that in between the time that he dominated and instituted Order 66 and when he died by the hands of Vader, that he most likely had discovered his source of power in the Outer Rim, that he had gone to investigate?
The source of power for any Force user isn't some place in the Outer Rim.
I'm just going based on what he had said.
He may have found a holocron or
some
a
sort
tomb,
of like secret,
or some source of Sith
power
energy.
Yeah,
but I don't think that it's realistic that Palpatine didn't even like reside on Coruscant. He had his own fucking private resort on one of the moons.
Is it likely though that he sensed that there was something out there in the Outer Rim that was very powerful, that was like feeding the dark side? That maybe he didn't know where it was, but he sensed it, and he had intended fully to investigate it further, but he died before he could.
I'm a believer of something that's non-canon, which counters that. So I can't really get into it, but I think personally, the whole point that Palpatine was trying to make by all these militaristic buildings and weapons and ships, and his concern with the Outer Rim was the Yuzhavong. But I think we've both gone over it multiple times that I am a strong supporter of the expanded universe.
It's hard to say if they're going to incorporate the Yuzhavong.
They won't.
I don't think that they're ready for it yet. I think they're going to dive back into past events before they go.
Do you know how much money? So let's get back to. I mean, we're jumping back to the Disney acquisition, but the money that it will cost to CGI an alien race.
It's a lot of money.
Not an alien race that's like...
And then for the movie to be a success, to pay for all that money.
Exactly. It's not an alien race that's like...
And people are already divided on the Yuzhavong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not an alien race like the Mon Call or an alien race like the fucking Ewoks. It's an alien race that literally each one is unique, in the sense that they graft portions of their dead allies to themselves.
Oh, that's some dark shit.
And the Yuzhavong are a caste system where you're born as what you are. You have your slaves, you have your servants, you have the warriors, the priests. Every level is very caste. And their ships are living entities.
And they're not affected by the Force.
They're not affected by the Force.
Completely different galaxy.
The amount of money, just looking at it as a fiscal development. I just don't think
that people are ready for it.
The amount of money for that to happen is far too high to make a visual representation.
Visual representation aside,
I don't believe it will.
I think the concept alone, I just think that people aren't ready for it in Star Wars.
Personally, I loved the Yuzhavong. I like the fact that they showed up to a planet. But are we ready to see it
on film?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think that any company is willing to spend the money to make it happen.
But you think conceptually it would be worth it?
Yeah.
I disagree.
And it would be the first time that anything in the Star Wars universe had to deal with something actually outside of the galaxy in a canon form.
I think it's just too
now.
Radical
Would I like to rather have the Sith Empire be the first thing that showed up from out of galaxy? Yes.
How great would that be that all this time there was a Sith Empire that was like building and like culminating its power?
Nothing gets my dick harder than thinking that there's a Sith Empire waiting for me.
That would be fantastic.
Nothing gets.
What if that's what Palpatine sensed, and that would make Palpatine kind of like a placeholder?
Which would be Droman Koss.
Oh, dude, that would be.
But once again, that would breach the rule of two.
Who knows? We'll see. I think they're going to surprise us either way with whatever's going to happen in Episode 9. I'm really excited for it. Are you excited for it? Please let us know. At gatheringbros at gmail.com. Tweet at us. Like, I would love to hear from you guys on Twitter. I am very active on our Twitter account. Me and Leo Veritas are really adamant about keeping that up to date. For the most part, I think I'm very active on it, more than he is. But you know what? We've had a really long discussion, haven't we, Craxiss? I mean, we have really just dove into it and gone on so many tangents. But
story of my life.
I think it's time for us to wrap things up. I think we've had a lot of great discussion.
This poor guy is gonna have to edit the fuck out of this.
Oh, yes, I am. But if you would like to hear maybe a follow-up with some questions you guys have on some of the things we've discussed, please let us know, the bros. I would love to hear from you guys so that we can have a follow-up with Craxiss.
I would be happy to do a part 2.
Because otherwise, we're probably not going to do it. I want to hear from you guys that, it's something you guys want to hear from with specific topics that you want us to talk about. Maybe something you heard us discuss in the show that you want us to elaborate on more, or maybe something different you want us to talk about in regards to Star Wars. I know there's a lot of Star Wars fans that do tune in to Gathering Your Bros. So please let us know. I want to give a big thanks to Craxiss for joining me today. Thank you so much, my dude.
For sure, man.
I really appreciate it. It's been a great show. We really, really just dove into it, didn't we?
We really did, and it's something that, like I said earlier, it's not very common that I'm able to get into this depth of discussion when it comes to Star Wars or any form of nerd talk in general, to really discuss the
passion
and details
yes
of the Star Wars universe in general.
I can definitely agree there.
And specifically with the Qui-Gon theory, I would love to hear everybody else's thoughts on that. This is the first time that I've actually ever publicly discussed this. It's
and
the
again,
first time that I've ever
heard
mentioned
anywhere.
it to anyone, and it's only because Michael is my brother from another mother, and I am happy to discuss it with him. You guys got to participate in the discussion. If you have thoughts, feelings, agreements, disagreements, reasons why, reasons against, please send that to them, and I would be more than happy to discuss that with you. And once again, if you prove me wrong or you show me some evidence that shows it's wrong, I am the first person to admit when I fuck up.
Most definitely. But
because I fuck up a lot.
Definitely share your opinions with us, guys. I want to hear from you guys, especially if you're big Star Wars fans like us. So thank you again, Craxiss, for joining us.
Y'all want to find me on Discord? I'm available at Darth Craxiss. Darth is spelled just like the Sith Lord. Craxiss is Craxiss. Feel free to hit me up personally. I don't mind at all. Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, I don't do it well, so that's really the only way. If you can't get a hold of me via there, hit up Esk on Discord. He's happy to pass it along to me. And thank you guys so much for spending some time with me on my crazy theories, my crazy thoughts, and my drunken debauchery.
Again, I am Eskuhvel, Eskuhvel. Y'all know me as Esk in the Discord. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at that gamertag Eskuhvel. If you have any questions about today's gathering of guests for me or for Craxiss, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, or you can email me or the other bros on gatheringbros@gmail.com. Be sure to mention your questions or comments about the Gathering of Guests show. Just say, hey, I have this question about Gathering of Guests when you send it to our email at gatheringbros@gmail.com. Remember, you can catch me and the other bros on our main show, The Gathering of Bros, G.O.G. Thanks again for everyone for tuning in to our episode today of G.O.G. From me and Craxiss. Stay gold.
Caw!